All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our TUSD Governing Board meeting. Tenemos servicios de interpretación disponibles. Por favor, indique con la mesa aquí si se necesita servicios de interpretación. Today is Tuesday, October 24th, and the first time I felt chilly outdoors in a very, very long time. And hope no one in our viewing audience suffered any hail damage this evening. On this day in history, in 1945, the UN Charter came into effect. I feel that now more than ever, we need to come together as a collective humanity for common goals, whether it be addressing climate change, poverty, and peace in our world here today. Today is also 1 week until a very important day, October 31st, which is the last day to mail in your ballot. Regardless of how you vote, please have your voice heard, exercise your civic duty, and complete and return your ballot. In 1 week from today is the deadline on that. Ms. Borboa, can I have a roll call for tonight?
Mr. Romero?
Here.
Michelle?
Here.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Here.
Ms. Luna Rose?
Here.
Dr. Rob?
Here. All right, and we're going to continue our meeting with our land acknowledgement statement. All right, and we have Felicia Leon. Is it in person or on Zoom? Is that on Zoom? Okay, great. Thank you for joining us, Felicia. Felicia is Native American Student Services Program Coordinator. Felicia Leon is a 7th generation Tucsonan, mother, and 30-plus year teacher with a passion for diversity and inclusion in our schools. Felicia has always worked in diverse communities in Arizona, Texas, and California. Her daughter, Nizoni Dine, and her experiences over the years in Native American studies has been central to her work. Felicia has endorsed an early childhood education, birth to ages 8, grade 3, and Spanish bilingual pre-K to 12. Felicia graduated from the University of Arizona with a bachelor's degree in bilingual elementary education and minor in Spanish. In her free time, Felicia serves in her community on the Barrio Anita Task Force. Her interests include mariachi music, Southwest literature, Native American poetry, Star Wars, and civil rights history. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. On behalf of the Governing Board of the Tucson Unified School District, I, Felicia A. Leon, acknowledge that the schools, buildings, and facilities of the Tucson Unified School District reside on the ancestral homeland of the Tohono Nation and the federally recognized tribal land of the Pascua Yaqui tribe.
Great. Thank you for reading that. And thank you for joining us this evening and for your work in our school district supporting our students. Next, we have our Pledge of Allegiance, and we have also on Zoom Manny Rojas, who's an 8th grader at Wakefield Middle School. Manny is a wonderful person. He's always helping hand at home and at his school. Manny is a very social person to his peers. He's involved in student council, mariachi, and basketball. Manny's family is also so proud of his achievements. Manny, thank you for joining us and leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Manny, and good luck on this 8th grade important year of yours. All right, Dr. Trujillo, do we have any agenda adjustments for this evening?
Dr. Shaw, members of the board, we have no agenda adjustments to recommend.
Okay, and I'll turn it back over to you for our awards and recognitions.
Yes, welcome Tucson Unified Community. This is the final meeting of October. We hope everybody's second quarter has gotten off to a great start. And we're going to kick off awards and recognitions tonight with 2 special treats. First, we're going to celebrate the excellence of OMA with our young performers here from Peter Howell. And then we're going to experience the brilliance of engineering and computer science over at Saguaro High School under the direction of Mr. Christian and Mr. Ben Davis. So we are in for a treat here before we get to the business of our governing board meeting. But first, a special word about Peter Howell Elementary second grade OMA opera students. Tonight, they're going to be performing excerpts from the opera they wrote and performed for last May's OMA Showcase. Under the collaborative guidance of classroom teacher Janice Bird, the OMA opera team Kim Chafin, Juan Aguirre, and Greg Reynolds, and the leadership of Principal Jaquetta Alexander, students created this script, the original lyrics, and the musical tunes, blending English language arts and fine arts standards together in a beautiful marriage of the academic and the performance arts. So to create a full opera. The setting, it's in Mexico, and the characters are hikers, burros, or donkeys in English, vaqueros, cowboys in English, and a pair of chupacabras, the mythical creature from Hispanic lore. Ladies and gentlemen, the greedy chupacabras of Miss Bird's class representing Peter Howell, K-5 Elementary.
We are in the Sonora Desert. There's lots of cacti and sand that is hot. The sunsets are pretty. There are many different colors. The weather is hot, but we like it here a lot. We are hikers and we walk along the trails. We are burros, which are donkeys with long tails. We are vaqueros, which are cowboys, and we ride. We all feel joyful that we get to relax outside. We are in the Sonoran Desert. There's lots of cacti and sand that is hot. The sunsets are pretty. There are many different colors. The weather is hot, but we like it here a lot. The weather is hot, but we like it here a lot.
Our group of hikers decided to cross the arroyo to get some water. As they were about to cross, a pair of chupacabras jumped out and said,
We are the really and greedy and mean chupacabras. We are hairless monsters with very sharp teeth and claws. People say we're terrifying. They cry for their mamas. We won't let anyone cross the arroyo. Trouble we like to cause. Oh no, we don't want them to get eaten. They're frightened and they're terrified. The people are friends. Oh no, they're nice and working people. Well, chupacabras eat them, is that how the story ends? Please don't eat us, please don't eat us, we don't want to die. We're skinny rabbit terrors that taste bad and that's no lie. Eat the burros, they are tasty treats. They are coming soon and they will have a lot more meat. Alright, go on, for burros we will wait. We want a bigger meal today, no need to watch my weight. Alright, go on, you're lucky that you're thinner. We want a bigger meal today, a big burrito dinner. Wah, ha, 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 ha. Let's get out of here!
The chupacabras allowed the hikers to pass and went back to their hiding spot. When the burros arrived, they jumped out and threatened to eat them. But the burros explained that they wouldn't make a good meal because they were all sweaty and stinky. They also explained that a large group of vaqueros was about to arrive and that they would have more food if they waited for them instead. The greedy chupacabras agreed that more food was better and they let them pass. When the vaquero group arrived, the chupacabras threatened to eat them. But the vaqueros were tough and mean and had ropes, spurs, and a red-hot branding iron. They roped up the chupacabras and threatened to brand them. The chupacabras begged the vaqueros to let them go, and they promised that they learn their lesson to not be greedy and not be mean. The vaqueros forgave them and even invited them to their party. The celebration sounded something like this. three.
Arriba, the chupacabras, they're the moral of the Torah. Don't be a bully and don't be greedy. Treat others nicely and help the needy. Let's have a fiesta, let's have a party. Bring us the goodies and don't be tardy. Las tacos, las hamburguesas, las chupacabras, que hay que
One, two, three.
We are so joyful. Are you excited? Are you exuberant to learn new or invited? We'll have some olives, we'll have some rice, and a pina colada we got a rice. We'll have some pudding that we call clam, and all the dancing makes me want to turn on the fan. Let's dance to cumbia, to wonder play. No, it's a house that always done it with her. Hooray!
Thank you again, Miss Bird, and all of our wonderful performers from Peter Howell. Give them another round of applause. They were absolutely amazing. And thank you to our parents so much for coming out and supporting our kids. And we'll take a moment while folks get reseated and our board members make their way back to the dais before we turn our attention to Saguaro. All right. Well, we are in for another treat. Today we have a special appearance by two of the premier programs, one CTE, one robotics, in the Tucson Unified School District. So we're going to be enjoying a robotics demonstration by the Engineering and Computer Science program from Saguaro High School under the leadership and tutelage of Mr. Andy Christian and Mr. Ben Davis. Mr. Christian, of course, from Computer Science. Mr. Davis oversees the engineering portion of tonight's program. Students learn to design, develop, and validate projects. The advanced projects focus on research with detailed plans and schedules for the investigation of core engineering concepts. Third-year students utilize a robotics theme to manage schedules, design considerations, and technical issues. This is one of our PIMA JTED enhanced programs. And some career options for students that complete this program, well, computer science, software applications development, web development, career in computer programming, and in the engineering side of the house, civil, biomedical, electrical, aerospace, or nuclear engineering are all pathways for students successfully completing this program. And now I'm going to turn it over to our young student leaders to lead us through this demonstration.
Hello? Guess I should probably talk to you guys, right? That's what we're here for. We're not talking to you. Okay. Hello, we are from Saguaro, the robotics program. As he said, we're going to demonstrate kind of a little of what you do during the club, and just all the cool experiences you get to have building, designing, and then driving and playing with the robots you built throughout the year. We're going to have a few members come down and try driving these themselves if they want to. So, if you want,
As we've
at least two of you. Yeah.
done in the past, we did with a culinary program, we'd like this to be interactive. So if everybody can come down, the Saguaro students are going to kind of demonstrate, and then we're going to see just how good our board members are at navigating our robots through the course they've set up. Before we start again, I'd like to introduce Mr. Ben Davis, our engineering teacher, Mr. Andy Christian, our computer science teacher, and hanging out back here, I don't know where he went, is Mr. Bobby Estrella, the principal of Saguaro High School. Okay, so let's get a quick demo, and then let's bring in some board members. Let them move it.
This is going to be a very simple course. We're just going to be going in between some cones, something like this. And the goal is to make it through those two poles first. And if you do, you win. So
Who wants to race?
it's a race. All right. All right. So the way it works is these are pink controls, so each joystick controls one side of the robot. So if you push the left stick forward, it drives the left wheels forward. Right stick also right forward. So it goes straight, that's you both. Then to turn, you just stop. You got it. You didn't make it. You got it.
That's not bad at all. We'll have them join the club. So the club is a competitive club. They do competitions. This year's competition is different than last year. It's different than the year before. So these guys go all around the state competing with the robots that they design. So this is a little game that they just decided we built for you guys to have some fun with. But these guys it's a blast to watch them go out and represent the school in a place like this where they're showing off their creative skills, their intellectual skills, and their teamwork skills.
Go and just see who wins.
Race, right?
Yeah.
All right, so Ricardo, you can tell them, say any mark, said go in the next one. All right. Okay, reset it for them. And then we'll do a race here.
So we'll start you kind of here. You're just gonna go with the snake on.
Say any mark, set go, Ricardo.
Mark, set, go.
Oh, not bad. There you go. Nice.
If only you had the discs, you could have awarded.
I need the old Nintendo.
So the program piece, you got to program the connection between the remote and then the wheels.
Yeah, we do all the programming ourselves.
Sorry, I play Mario Kart with my kids all the time.
Did you try it? It's tough.
Where's the turtle shell?
Yep.
Position again.
You give the new folks a chance to practice. Or just go right in. And then now you can set her up for the race.
Right, so we go straight. You want to push it both forward at the same time. Like that. And turn, push one forward, and then one slightly forward, twice as forward, and then
Let's do this.
All right, here's time to race.
So we are gonna go for the big race now. And
Mark, set, go.
You got it. You got it. Ooh, look at that. Going. So, yep, they did make it look easy before. To the finish line. Almost.
yeah, I know.
Okay. December 9th, and then okay. Oh, almost. Go help him out, guys. Go help him out in there. Oh, wide, make those a little wider. Yeah. And all right. Okay. All right. Here we got racing here. And we are going to have tournaments, guys, at our school. We put two of them on. First one is December 9th. So if anyone is interested in seeing what the tournament is, it's a Saturday. It is most of the day. Yeah, and it is free to the public. So December 9th, come over to Saguaro. We have another one. The Saturday before rodeo break is our second one. So we do two of them for the year. In this year's game, they will be throwing some things. It's almost like a soccer game that they're going to be playing. All right, do you guys want to practice or just go for it? All right, just going to go for it. All right. Oh.
We're used to stompers, so this is going to be... Mark, set, go. Oh! That was a great start. Yeah.
The kids did make it look easy, huh? Oh, there it goes. Uh-oh, his wheel's spinning. No. So...
Nothing is spinning.
Oh, she's troubleshooting. Yeah, and part of it, the fun part about this with the kids, they do learn the problem-solving skills on the fly like that. So they have to do this as things break. They got to try to get things fixed and learn a lot about just how things are put together and how to troubleshoot. Oh, there it goes. Yep. And it's going now. Through turn. Should I say they are about $1,000 each, so be careful if they say that? Should I say they're about $1,000 each, so be careful? Hey! All right. All right, so Benite, what would like you guys to do is introduce all yourselves as well. Let everyone know who you guys are, what year you are at school.
My name is Benite Lujando, and I'm in both computer science and engineering class. I love this club because I get to put all my studies into work. It's so creative. At times we have to redo the robot again because it doesn't work. We have to redo the code, or sometimes we have to fix new parts because some parts are missing. And then we have to figure out what else can replace what we had. And so it has been so cool being in the club. And then this is our robot. It's called Tobias. And we are planning to take it to state championship probably.
All right.
Hello, my name is Maria Capaco, and I am a freshman at Sorrel High School. They are all seniors. I do computer science my first year, and I joined robotics because I want to be a robotics engineer when I graduate. And it's been really fun building the robot, putting the pieces together. Like, as you just saw, he kind of fell apart, fixing him, doing all that. And I've been able to help with coding, putting in the directions of which way to go, and all that. Thank you.
All right.
Hello, my name's Brandon Miller. I'm a senior here at Seward High School. This is my third year doing robotics here, and I can say each year it's gotten a little bit better. My first year, things didn't really go that great. I barely had a robot that could work, and now I'm making a catapult that can fling things. So I'd say as the years go on, it just gets better every time, and I've gotten more friends and classes from it that will help me in life. So yeah.
I'm Ricardo Ojeda Gomez. This is my third year of robotics, and I am at the moment in both AP Computer Science and Engineering. And robotics has been like a lot of fun. The only like after school thing that I've done that I've actually like stayed with, and tournaments are a lot of fun. Building the robots fun. Finding weird solutions to weirder problems has been a lot of fun, and like meeting new people, and like yeah, it's like great experience, and it'll definitely help in like my future and like STEM field and stuff like that. So yeah, that's about it. Robotics is like really good.
Yeah, my name's Logan Culleton. I'm also a senior at Sorrel High School. This is my second year, so I've done this twice. I'm also in computer science engineering. That seems to be a theme because that's what robotics is. It's a mix of computer science engineering, so bringing those together, bringing what you've learned in class together into a robot that you drive around. Every year was better. Last year was a lot of just learning, how does a robot work? How do you build it? How do you recover from the failure of going to a tournament with a robot that didn't drive, which I did multiple times, to now this year, we've all done it before, so we were able to come in with a more clear vision of here's what we want to do, here's everything we learned from last year's game, and we can just take all the experience and bring it into our new game and just have an amazing time. The tournaments, which didn't really got brought up, is just it's really fun to just have a bunch of different teams from all across the state, even a few out-of-state people. Just everyone comes together. It's a competition, but we're all just a bunch of nerds who are really enjoying building robots. And you just it's really exciting to see all the new designs, all the new ideas that you couldn't have even thought of that someone from New Mexico might have thought of. So it's really awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. What a great evening to start off our meeting with both amazing music and arts performance from the Peter Howell second grade opera, and now here with a great introduction to our STEM programming in TUSD with our robotics team from Saguaro High School. So thank you very much, and Dr. Trio, great job putting this together, and definitely shows us why we're proud to be TUSD. Thank you.
Thanks, students. Really appreciate your time. That was fun. And Val, next time, what's on?
More board competitions here.
Going on with the awards and recognitions. And again, what we saw from Saguaro High School, those amazing students will one day be reinventing the future. And just an example of 6 or 7 of the over 7,000 students in this district that take career and technical education programs. We are proudly one of the largest CTE going districts in the state of Arizona. Just another point of pride for the Tucson Unified Community. Speaking of points of pride, I had the opportunity to visit two amazing school communities last week. Starting at Cavett, I want to thank Principal Carol Leeson for walking me around, and I'm just so thankful for all of the wonderful teachers and the time I spent there. I got to see a taiko class, our students engaged in the OMA programming there at Cavett, learning the beauty of Japanese culture through taiko music, which of course also promotes learning music and rhyme. I also had an opportunity to learn more about the bookworm vending machine that they have on the campus, where students like getting snacks out of a vending machine can actually get books. I actually had the opportunity also to welcome the UCAT students, that's the University of Arizona Center for Assessment, Teaching, and Technology, future student teachers, meeting on campus at Cavett, discussing pedagogy and just getting ready to take their next steps in terms of their student teaching. And of course, thank them for choosing TUSD for this formative part of their career. So a lot of great things going on there at Cavett. Then I had an opportunity to walk across the street to Utterback. And what people don't know about Utterback, it has just become one of the premier middle schools in all of TUSD. I cannot say enough about Principal Taranika Sanders and the way that she has transformed that campus in the last 4 or 5 years under her leadership, as well as the team that she has assembled. A lot of people don't know that Utterback is now a B-rated high school, and they're very, very close to an A. It is also an Avid School of Distinction. They are very close to becoming an Avid Demonstration School, which is the highest level of Avid performance that you can achieve in the Avid instructional framework. Had an opportunity there also to go into the Verizon Innovative Learning Labs. I was led by students, the student tech team, who showed me all around the Verizon Innovative Learning Labs and the gaming room that the students themselves designed. Student-led, student-designed, and student-resourced. Through the efforts of the students, they were able to secure a donation of gaming equipment from both Verizon and an anonymous donor that donated all of the gaming equipment that you see there on screen. Students also painted the gaming room in the iconic black, which is used predominantly by professional gamers. And they will be kicking off the gaming program a little bit later on in the month of November. I'm looking forward to being out there. So esports is going to be a big focus for Utterback. I also had the great opportunity to sit down with some Utterback staff members in a focus group setting and talk all things TUSD. Had some great conversations about benefits, about teacher salaries, about the code of conduct, and all of the wonderful things going on there at Utterback. And lastly, I had an opportunity to meet Mr. Justin Moore, a fantastic dance teacher who kind of caught me off guard by actually inviting me up on stage to dance with the kids in a routine that they had choreographed. So I had approximately 60 seconds to learn the steps and the music, and they hit the music, so had to go for it. So absolutely wonderful visit out there at Utterback. I invite anybody who hasn't been out there to go walk those halls. It's a celebration of the arts. It's a celebration of student excellence and Avid, and just an absolutely great visit there at Utterback. Lastly, I want to highlight the University of Arizona's Office of Research, Innovation, and Impact Lead Young Women of Impact celebration. It is a campaign and recognition event to recognize notable women faculty and staff at the University of Arizona, as well as this year, for the first time, also honoring high school students nominated by their principals from 18 public schools across Pima County school districts. On Friday, October 20th, these students were recognized for their commitment to and demonstration of the university's 6 core values: integrity, compassion, inspiration, adaptability, inclusivity, and determination. So congratulations to the TUSD student leaders that were recognized at the Women of Impact celebration. Addie Moss of Rincon High School, Annalise Flores from Santa Rita High School, Canberra Basham, Saguaro High School, Shanae Lopez, Tucson High, Ella Healy, University High School, Haley Hunter, Sabino High School, Mario Campos Tapia from Pueblo High School, Micaela Ballesteros, Palo Verde High School, Miracle Pettigrew from Catalina High School, and Nathania Politron of Choya High School. Let's give our young ladies a round of applause for this wonderful recognition. And my thanks to the University of Arizona for recognizing these outstanding student leaders. And to round out awards and recognitions this evening, have an opportunity to celebrate staff excellence. And tonight we congratulate Roberto Cruz, the Senior Coordinator for the Advanced Learning Experience Department's Testing, Placement, and Recruitment Department, was recognized by the Tucson Hispanic Chamber of Commerce with its 40 Under 40 Award. The 40 Under 40 Award is focused on leadership as well as community involvement and the contributions made by its winners and its honorees in moving our community forward. I also had the opportunity to meet Mr. Cruz. He is stationed out at Cabot, where he does his work from as a member of the ALE department. I had an opportunity to congratulate him for this award, and not only this award, but also his exceptional customer service to the gate parents of our district. He is one of our most responsive and accessible gate team members and an exceptional ambassador for the district in promoting our gate programming and helping our students and our parents access gifted and talented education in our district. So congratulations, Mr. Cruz. Governing Board President Shaw, members of the board, that concludes awards and recognitions for the evening.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. And congratulations to everyone honored in the last couple of weeks. I'm going to turn over to my colleagues for our board member activity reports. And again, we do this every month, usually the second meeting of the month, to review where we've been, how we are learning about our district through our interactions with teachers and staff and principals, and being part of the Tucson community as members of your governing board. So I'll turn it over to my esteemed colleagues for any board member governing reports that we want to give this evening. Ms. Luna Rose?
Yes, thank you. And good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I know it's a little bit past fall break, but I hope everybody enjoyed fall break because I was not here last week, so I'm welcoming everybody back because I wasn't here. Okay, and I hope you're enjoying the cooler weather because now it's starting to feel like Halloween, and I'm very excited and actually wearing a shirt tonight to kind of celebrate one of my favorite holidays. And so, two events. I was a little busy, I was a little busy. So without further ado, I did attend. I was not, like I said, I was not here last Tuesday because I attended college night at the TCC. As some of you may be aware, I'm the only person on the dais with a child in high school. So we're looking forward to the future. It was a very well-attended event. It was, there was a lot of families, a lot of different colleges, not just from Arizona. Of course, the big ones were there, U of A being the biggest and having about 9 tables to represent each one of their colleges on campus, but also NAU and ASU, Pima Community College, Pima Medical Institute, but colleges from New Mexico, California, Oregon, of course, Air Force Academy, West Point. So it was really nice to see so many families out, and the excitement on everybody's faces and the trepidation, I think, from the parents. But we learned a lot, and I'm not going to jinx anything for my daughter, so I won't mention which schools, but I always hope that she'll stay here and be a wildcat. So moving on, did just 2 quick tours of one at UHS. Thank you to Mr. Rangel and Ms. Rodriguez, Shauna Rodriguez as well, for setting up the tour. I've been on that campus, and I'm on that campus every day because it's Rincon UHS. But this is the first time I actually toured it for UHS, and it was it's such a different, it gave me a different view of a campus that I thought I knew really well, and just the amazing things that they're doing there, and the students were great, very welcoming in the classrooms, showing me what they were doing, some amazing art projects, AP World History class that I walked into, what they were talking about. We have some, I just want to say to the rest of the world, watch out, we've got some great kids at all our schools. So it was a good tour. As a alumni of the Rincon campus, growing up, you heard about the bomb shelter that was at the bottom of the campus, and I always thought that was a myth, but that's actually true. I actually got to take a sneak peek, and if you've ever been on that campus, the amphitheater everything goes underneath that amphitheater to the smokestack that faces Swan, and it's spooky and scary, and it's real. So I don't know if there's any other schools in the district that have those. I heard that Tucson High might, and perhaps Catalina, but that was an experience that I won't forget. I also toured this morning over at Blenman Elementary. Thanks to Miss Mack for giving me the time this morning. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders were over at the hockey game over at the TCC they had gotten invited to. But I got to see the little ones doing, being in their classrooms, and it was just a very lovely campus. So I really enjoyed my time there. Last Saturday, attended the U of A Band Day, which is if you're not familiar, it was their 70th anniversary of Band Day, where bands from all across Phoenix and mainly Southern Arizona get invited from the University of Arizona the Pride of Arizona Marching Band, and they perform. And so we had schools from Palo Verde, or bands from Palo Verde, Cholla, Sabino, Tucson High, and Rincon University compete in their separate divisions. And right after the last group was Rincon University, and right after them was the Pride of Arizona, so we got a really nice show. The kids, they marched on the U of A field in the football stadium, and it's really impressive, and everybody really goes out from each school. And unfortunately in our division, one of the Phoenix schools won, but we'll come back strong. But it was just great to see the drum majors from Tucson High and Sabino, Cholla, Palo Verde be there at the end to represent their bandmates. So congratulations to everybody that competed. And lastly, this Friday is the 56th anniversary of Rincon High School. They are doing a huge alumni push, and so if you are an alumni, doesn't matter which year, want to come, they are having a alumni celebration at 5 o'clock, and then the game's at 7 with announcing and having alumni walk on the field during halftime. So if you're out there listening, you're also welcome to call the school or the PTA. They're very active on Facebook, or talk to Ms. Welch over, the principal at Rincon. But it goes to show that there's TUSD has a lot of history, and so we've got schools that, like this morning, Blenman was built in 1941. So we've got a lot of history here, and so we should be proud of that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Luna Rose. Anyone else like to have a board member report? Ms. Ekstrom?
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. I had toured 4 schools since our last meeting. First being Hollinger K through 8. Thank you to Principal Jackson for the tour. I got to see many dual language classrooms, which was great. I got to see how they're transforming their campus and just really trying to make sure that everybody has a wonderful experience there. Next, I was at Pister Middle School. Thank you to Principal Gunnels for the tour. It's a very large, beautiful campus. They take a lot of pride in what they're doing down at Pister, and it was just a wonderful morning there. Next, I was at Mary Bell McCorkle K through 8. Thank you to the student council members, Jazzy and Ethan, where that morning they had just brought in a bunch of food for the community food bank. So that was great to hear and to see. It's a beautiful campus, lots of student activity. I got to meet a few teachers that were in their planning. So thank you to Mary Bell McCorkle. And then lastly, I was at Drachman Montessori K through 8. Thank you to Principal Celaya for the tour. I got to see the different grade levels come together and they're learning and how they're doing it at their own pace, which is great to see. They have a beautiful campus with chickens and a tortoise, and they also are part of the University of Arizona Garden Program. And they also have an autism classroom there. So it was just great to be out at Drachman. And lastly, I got to give Dr. Trujillo a tour of Pima County Community and Workforce Development, and we had a discussion there on how we can support TUSD. So we're hoping to make that relationship a lot better and to help our families here in TUSD. And that's it for my report.
Great, thank you, Ms. Ekstrom. Mr. Romero.
Check. All right. I also was at Drachman. That's school visit number 71, and it's a great program that they do have over there. The Home of the Dragons, again, also had a great visit with Principal Jesus Celaya. Visited Project Moore, Home of the Tigers, and a great visit with Principal Izzy. Again, I didn't know anything about Project Moore, so it opened my eyes to again, another good program that we have in the district. Miles got to visit the Home of the Mustangs, also great visit with Principal Andrea Steele, and then a special stop at Mary Meredith, Home of the Mustangs, and I had no idea, and it's like just right across the playground over here that it was even there. We have somebody special with Principal Judy Mitchell. We are very fortunate to have her at the position in that principal. All those people that are part of that school, they have a huge responsibility, and they have to love their job to do what they're doing, and I tip my hats off to them. They're all fantastic. Also visited Borman, Home of the Astros, and I found out Astros means astronauts. They're on Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. I had a great visit with Brian Huss. Wheeler, Home of the Wildcats, great visit with Principal Rosalinda Rodriguez. She rolled out the red carpet for me over there, and probably one of the cleanest campuses I have seen of the TUSD schools. And I didn't even know this, afterwards they showed me that they would have competitions for custodials, and they had won multiple in that. Erickson, Home of the Roadrunners, great visit with Principal Rachel Romero. Also Hudlow, Home of the Hawks, another great visit, this time with Eva Almonte. And I had Regional Superintendent Shauna Rodriguez join me at Wheeler, Erickson, and Hudlow to wrap up my initial school visits in the Arcadia region. And then today I toured 3 out of my 4 scheduled schools in the Silverbell region with Brian Lambert. We started with Banks, Home of the Bobcats, great visit with Principal William Rosenberg, another extremely clean campus. Valencia, Home of the Jaguars, again, great visit with Principal Stacy Geist. And then also Pister, school number 81, Home of the Panthers, and a great visit with Catherine Gunnels as well. And I had to reschedule my Vesey school, so I'm not done with Silverbell yet. One more to go. And then last week, I also had a class visit to the Saguaro culinary class. They said I made the best crepes and wanted me to speak at one of their classes. I'll be going back in the winter to work with them in the kitchen. I don't think the robotics team is going to have me out.
I'm Ms. Shah.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Last month, I attended the Pima County School Board Superintendent's Collaborative meeting with a few other board members here. That meeting is like a bunch of boards get together, and we learn about issues that are related to school boards. So learned a lot from that. More recently, I attended the ASBA county meeting where we voted in a new director for Pima County from all of the school board members who attended. Yeah, and I guess our new Pima County representative is Mr. King from Vail. And a couple weekends ago, I attended Utterback for their Salud Arte event, which is a collaboration between the Health Department and the Arts Foundation for Tucson and Southern Arizona, where they were highlighting the work of Miss Barbia Williams, who teaches dance over at Utterback. And last week, I attended the Employee Benefits Trust meeting where I serve as the ex officio member. We got a presentation on like potential new benefits for our employees, just like we're looking at the options, you know. But the most interesting part was a conversation about considering moving to passive enrollment for health benefits instead of like having a deadline. And so that's a conversation that will continue. And I just want to put it out there for everyone listening that the Employee Benefits Trust Committee is looking for members. And so if you're interested in serving on that committee, just look up TUSD board committees on Google and it should bring you to all of our board committees. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shaw, and thank you to my colleagues on the governing board for all that you do, learning about our district and representing our district. I have just one item to add for the last month. I was able to visit Marshall Elementary School on TUSD's east side, and thank you, Principal. It's not Sue, it's Suisse, I believe. And she gave me a tour of the campus. I was able to time my visit with the Student of the Month Assembly. So it's a great opportunity to not just see really enthusiastic students celebrating each other, but see so many parents and family members in the audience engaged with the school community. So always great to see such great family engagement. And so that was my visit in the last month. And I want to thank all of you for all of your visits. And that'll conclude our board member activity reports and turn it over to my colleague, Board Clerk Romero, to lead us for the guidelines and the address to the board for call to the audience.
Public participation at board meetings. Members of the public may speak during the call to the audience. The governing board clerk should be responsible for recognizing speakers and for maintaining order where it may be appropriate. Those who speak in person or want to have their comments read shall email or call the board office to complete a request to address the board form before the meeting. Speakers who have not completed a request form are not permitted to address the board. The speaker must state their full name and topic prior to addressing the board. Speakers are encouraged to be brief for the maximum time of 3 minutes. While more than one speaker may speak together in the time allowed, speakers are reminded that they are not allowed to speak more than once, and they may not transfer or delegate their time to others. If there are documents for the board, please give them to the board office staff, and they will ensure each board member receives a copy. Those attending the meeting and or speaking before the board shall observe rules of good conduct. Speakers should also refrain from inappropriate or slanderous remarks, and because TUSD serves students from preschool through high school, speakers should be aware that there are many children present and listening. At the end of the call to the audience, the governing board president will ask if any board member wishes to respond to criticism, wish to ask staff to review a matter, or wish to ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. No more than 2 members may address each topic. Contents of this card are public information. Our first will be Tony Mosley and then Melissa Gonzalez.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Trujillo, and other distinguished guests, including the community. My name is Tony Mosley, and I'm a proud graduate of TUSD. Went to Saffron Middle School and on to Pueblo High School. As a matter of fact, myself and a young man by the name of Fat Lever put TUSD on the board back in 1978 as a 2-time state champion, ranked 3rd in the nation when people didn't even know where Tucson, Arizona was. And I say that very proudly because once a warrior, always a warrior. I'm here again to put Tucson Unified on the map with a program we're calling PSPI. I have been a school counselor for over 18 years, 14 of those years were here at TUSD, and I've seen the challenges associated with students who are constantly being suspended, expelled, and or dropping out. That particular demographics of student has not basically had an opportunity to be served, and that is students of incarcerated parents. The nonprofit that I started is called Parent Student Prison Initiative. PSPI.org is our website. As a matter of fact, I don't know if we can. I would like to offer the board members each a pamphlet that we brought with us tonight to show you a little bit about who we are and what we do. My board consists of 5 doctors, and along with a judge. Shawnee Pesqueta back there. You can wave your hand, let them know we're here. Yeah, and then Emmanuel is our ambassador for the Southern Arizona area. I have moved to Phoenix a couple of years ago as I lost my daughter to COVID, and I wanted to be closer to my grandkids, so I made a decision to be there and to leave TUSD, but TUSD is my home, is my heart. This is why I'm coming to you tonight, not to ask for anything, but the opportunity to bring our program to TUSD and to serve our students in our community. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the number one student that is dropping out. If you go to any of your schools and you say to the principals, how many kids do you have parents are incarcerated? The answer would be, we don't know. It's simply because we're focused on academics, the curriculum and things like that, school shootings and everything else. Our administrators don't have time to focus on that particular demographics. We all know there's a big elephant when it comes to school concerns and school problems. We just want to take a bite out of that big elephant. How do you eat it? One bite at a time. This program was designed with an understanding of those of us being in the trenches, myself as a counselor, understanding that those closest to the problem are closest to the solution. And that's what I'm here about tonight. I want to give you an opportunity to start the program here at TUSD, because even though I'm in Phoenix and I have quite a few schools that are looking at our program, say, yes, please come. I'm saying to them, hold on, stand by. Let me get with TUSD. Had a couple of board members that I engaged with before.
I know it's time.
That's 3 minutes? My gosh. Okay, any questions you have, please, I'll stick around for those. Thank you so much.
Melissa Gonzalez.
I'm not as tall as he is. Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Trujillo, and the distinguished guests. I am a Pueblo High School graduate. I have 3 students that have attended Pueblo High School, 2 that have graduated, 1 that is currently a freshman, that has spoken of being a warrior since she was 4 years old. And I'm here to discuss issues that I'm having with the school that I'm sure all board members, including Dr. Trujillo, have received emails from me. My daughter was suspended the 2nd week of school for an assumption of being under the influence of marijuana. I was told the only way that I could get that suspension lifted was to have a drug test. J2 lab form was given to me. I went to J2 labs. They are giving out a form that is for employees. It's using your TUSD account to give a discount to the parents. The results are not released to the parents. They were released to the school or whoever holds the account. That was my first incident. Her due process was violated. Mr. Alvarez did go ahead and dismiss the suspension. The nurse has attitude when she speaks to us now. My daughter is 14. She's been a type 1 diabetic since she was 9 years old, attending McCorkle. She has anxiety, depression, self-harming, PTSD, and stress. Kate Straub herself witnessed this on orientation, but proceeded to do what is very similar to a field sobriety test on her with low sugar, crying, panic attack, and then wrote fail on this form. After that happened, when that was happening, I spoke to Mr. R in regards to this. His response to me was, you're gonna let your daughter play volleyball with all those ailments? Really? You just discriminated against her? They let you be a principal, but you stutter. Same difference. Now I am battling them because I brought concerns of non-communication with the coach, vulgar language being used, no communication. In a text message to me, she told me she would no longer reply to parents or communicate player responsibilities, meaning practice time, practice canceled, practice not at 3:30, practice at 6 a.m. My daughter doesn't drive, she's 14, she's a minor. I wanted them to be diabetic trained. I have had to go to each office and knock on a door to get this to happen. I took a day off today, left a message personally with Mr. Alvarez, personally with Mr. Chandler, spoke to Ms. Wheeler. Ms. Wheeler actually took the time to attend a game today. I have to come to the board to get heard. My next solution is going to hire an attorney. I am available if you guys want to discuss it with me.
And Yolanda, looks like we have two more, but they're to be read.
Yes.
Oh, wait. The last one, it does say in person, or is
No,
it to,
it's
oh,
to be
read? Okay.
Dear Superintendent Trujillo and Governing Board, I am writing to express my deep concerns about the potential negative impact on Gridley Middle School resulting from the proposed changes in our school district. As a parent with children at Gale Elementary and Gridley Middle School, and as a dedicated teacher with 11 years of service in this district, including the last 4 years as a 6th grade science teacher at Gridley Middle School, I feel compelled to share my worries. The primary issue at hand is a significant increase in the number of 6th grade students that will be redirected from Gridley Middle School to our feeder schools. The current 6th grade class of 179 comprises of 121 students who attended Henry, Soling Tom, Gale, and Steele last year. While the presented data estimates a reduction of 60 students in Gridley's enrollment, I fear this number may in fact be considerably higher. This has raised serious concerns regarding the potential need for staff reductions. Gridley Middle School's 6th grade team has owned its expertise in helping students transition from elementary to middle school. We understand the unique challenges and anxieties that come with this crucial phase in a student's academic journey. Our recent performance on the math benchmark, where Gridley's 6th grade ranked 4th in proficiency across the district, even surpassing magnet schools like Dodge and Mansfield, is a testament to our team's dedication. Notably, 15% of all the math highly proficient 6th grade students in this district attended Gridley. Our ELA scores, while not far behind, placed us 10th in the district, significantly outperforming the other East Side middle schools of McGee and Secrest. Moreover, Gridley's extracurricular programs have consistently excelled. Our 6th grade band and orchestra each have 50 students, and our sports teams have a history of excellence, including the recent city champions in boys basketball and girls cross country, along with runner-up boys cross country. Decreasing our students' participation in these extracurricular activities from 3 to 2 years hinders their ability to truly blossom and develop their talents. The proposed changes threaten to disrupt the foundation we have built at Gridley Middle School, suggesting an expenditure of over $500,000 to acquire portables for Gale and Henry when Gridley, Secrest, and McGee have numerous empty, fully furnished classrooms seems imprudent. Furthermore, I am dismayed that no teachers at the middle schools have been consulted at all regarding their thoughts and insights on this transition. I urge you to consider surveying current 6th grade parents to gauge their satisfaction with their choice of middle school and whether they regret not having the option of a K-6 school. Many parents are nervous about such a big transition, but are happy with the results once the school year has started. Additionally, I implore you to contemplate rolling out the K-6 plan in smaller phases to better assess its impact on the East Side middle schools. In conclusion, I ask that you consider the concerns Hello, TUSD board members and TUSD leadership. Our names are Philip Schweitzer and Andrew Nichols. This will be our 17th year teaching at Gridley Middle School and its main feeder elementary schools, Gale Elementary School, Soling Tom Elementary School, Henry Elementary School, and Steele Elementary School. We have a unique perspective on the student matriculation to middle school because we regularly see these students at the 5th grades and at the middle school level every day as itinerant music teachers. We also regularly meet and speak with the parents at the 5th grade level. When a student goes out of the district for middle school, the vast majority of time parents say that they perceive the TUSD middle schools to be less safe, and this is their main concern. Our thoughts. The main issue of dropping enrollment is the real and perceived behavior problems at the middle schools. There needs to be more staff and support to be able to address behavior problems and assign consequences. When meaningful consequences are followed through consistently, students will change their behavior in order to avoid consequences. Making Gridley Middle School's 4 main feeders into K-6 will cause the enrollment to further decrease at Gridley because there will now be one extra option to draw students away in addition to the charter schools present in the area. This will result in more FTE having to be taken away, and this will result in smaller 7th and 8th grade classes as well down the line. This will also result in fewer academic opportunities for our students because there will be less staffing and less flexibility in scheduling due to reduced course section available. This will then continue to make the middle schools less desirable to attend, farther adding to the problem. Gridley offers high school geometry track for incoming students. We will have fewer students available to start the accelerated path in 6th grade. Gridley Middle School has regularly had some of the highest geometry scores in the state. This will directly affect the number of students who are able and prepared to take AP Calculus in high school, especially at Saguaro and Sabino High School. This will reduce the ratings of our high schools as well as due to fewer students taking and passing AP Calculus. Fine arts are a big part of Gridley Middle School. Starting everyday ensemble band and orchestra classes in 6th grade is important in order to have students reach the required ability by 8th grade. That will make them successful in high school and music classes. The higher the performing ability of the middle school students, the more likely they will be to continue in these programs. By delaying everyday ensemble classes until 7th grade, this will harm the ability of middle school music classes to retain students and build programs. This will directly result in lower numbers in the high school programs. Holding students at the elementary and extra year does nothing to address the root cause of lower enrollment and instead only delays the exodus of families by a year. If we truly want to solve this problem of declining enrollment at the middle schools, we need to first...
And this concludes our call to the audience.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. This is an opportunity now for governing board members to respond to any comments, have items be moved on to future agendas, or get any clarifying questions answered.
Dr. Shaw?
Mr. Ekstrom, I think that was you?
Yes.
Okay.
First off, thank you, Mr. Mosley, for coming to speak to us at Call to the Audience. I actually met Mr. Mosley at the Fresh Start event that I was at this weekend. Dr. Trujillo, is it possible to get on the agenda an informational item where he can talk more about the program and the governing board can learn about that?
We can follow up accordingly, yeah.
Okay. And next, Ms. Gonzalez, thank you for coming to our meeting. I do understand that Pueblo will be setting up an IEP meeting, Dr. Trujillo, to address the concerns.
Yes, and we're going to make that happen as quickly as possible.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ekstrom, and I'll add my own comment and feedback. Mr. Mosley, thank you for coming here. One of my roles I have is I'm a family physician and I'm work at the Pima County Jail and a medical director there at the jail, so definitely very interested in figuring out how to work with families with members that are incarcerated. And so can you please reach out to me, just TUSD Governing Board. I'm the first person listed there. I'd love to learn more about your program and how we can collaborate to work with families in our community that face incarceration. Yeah. Ms. Shaw?
Thank you, and thank you to everyone who spoke today. I want to especially thank the teachers from Gridley who gave us their perspective about the item on the agenda today about keeping 6th grade at certain, or adding 6th grade to certain elementary schools. And so, you know, your perspective is really important and definitely shined a light on some things that I'm going to be asking questions about. Ms. Gonzalez, thank you for advocating for your child. I want to echo what my colleagues said and see if we can get some more information, especially with the conduct of the nurse and the coach, and see about any potential FAPE violations. Mr. Mosley, thank you for being here today. I know you know, we spoke about this for quite some time, and I know Dr. Trujillo is aware of your program, and so I would like to see it on the agenda as an action item so we can help out so many of those students who are suffering in silence. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone, and thank you for coming and speak with us today. So I'll conclude our call to the audience and move us on to item number 6, our consent agenda. Dr. Trujillo.
Members of the governing board, we present for governing board consideration the approval of the consent agenda as arranged and organized, items 6.2 through 6.6.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. Are there any items that we'd like any clarification questions answer before we vote on this consent agenda? All right, seeing none, I will move item 6.2 to 6.6, our consent agenda.
I'll second.
Item moved by myself and seconded by Ms. Luna Rose. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item passes 5-0. Next, we have our first action item, 7.1. Dr. Trujillo.
Yeah, action item 7.1, President Shaw, governing board members. This is a policy returning to us for a second read coming out of the public comment period. Governing board policy GBEF, staff use of digital communications and electronic devices. Our Associate General Counsel will take us through this item. Mr. Aronoff.
Thank you, and good evening, governing board. This item, as Dr. Trujillo said, is on for a second read. We had it after the first read posted for public comment. We have adjusted the draft that you're seeing in the agenda item since it was here for a first read. We tried to incorporate the various comments that we've gotten, which are reflected in the agenda item, and have sort of updated accordingly, trying to address some of the concerns that were raised and questions that were raised to better tailor it to the needs at the school level. We recognize, I think, that this is a very new issue, right? It's a very modern issue, and we haven't had a policy specifically on that. And so we continue to try to tweak it. And certainly this is in the board's hands at this point to decide sort of what we want to do with it. I imagine we're probably not going to get it 100% right the first time. Once we roll it out, and we'll adjust it as we go. We can always bring it back if we need adjustments. But at this point, I'll leave it to you to discuss. It is up for a second read, so the requested action is to pass it tonight and for us to start to implement it. And I'll hear for questions.
Great, thank you, Mr. Aronoff. Ms. Luna Rose.
Thank you. I cross-referenced this to the with the comments that came in, and so there seemed to be, I thought, at least to myself, a little bit of maybe confusion or things that perhaps the policy didn't say in some of the comments. And I don't want to pick on anybody in there, but it kind of didn't seem consistent. I'm wondering if my colleagues would indulge me, the first 4 paragraphs are a lot. And I'm wondering if we can kind of scrub that a bit to make it just to where we get down to the general rules. I don't know if we really need all of that, because I feel like the meat of this policy is the general rules, communication to students, and responsibilities to follow law and policy. I don't know if we need to be as wordy as it needs to be. So I'm kind of throwing that out on the table for discussion.
I can address part of that if at least the second and third paragraphs are largely intended to be definitional. So trying to lay out or outline what exactly this policy can cover. So when we talk about social media, what do we mean? When we talk about mobile technology, what do we mean? That is admittedly a very lawyery thing to do, to try to be clear. But we are using these terms in the policy, and so we want to be clear about them. We don't necessarily have to do that at the front end, but I think it would be wise for us to at least set those parameters at some point in the policy to say, what do we mean when we say social media? What do we mean when we say mobile technology?
Okay. I mean, we can, work. I realize the the legal implications and the wording, and I can appreciate that. I just feel like making it a little bit more user-friendly, to not total pun there, on this might go a long way to make it a little bit more palatable.
Ms. Romero.
I agree with you, Mr. Arnoff. You know, I think this good description makes it so there isn't any loopholes to get on in or something we didn't avoid. Again, being the legal aspect of it, I know not to have any wiggle room to not understand what it means. I think it's very important legally for the district to keep those things.
Go ahead, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. I agree with Ms. Luna Rose. I think the policy is quite wordy, and there's a lot of information here, and so I wonder like how effective it can be with just the amount of information. And I'm curious as to whether did you consider all of the comments that were received? Because, we had a lot of comments, and some of those were also very wordy. And so, I lean towards what the staff have to say about, the necessities sometimes of communicating with students, and then the differences depending on the grade level and how they communicate. I'm not sure if like some of that was translated into here as far as, elementary school students, a lot of them rely on like Class Dojo, things like that. Whereas high school, you may, venture into the territory of actually communicating with the student. I do think like it's an important policy, and I'm just not sure if it's ready yet to be passed.
Appreciate all those comments, and first to the audience out there, we usually don't get very many comments on our governing board policies, and so we received a lot this time, and so obviously this is very important to a lot of our community members, especially our staff that would be affected by these policies if this policy were to be adopted. And this is the third time that this has come before the governing board. The first time we asked for it to be revised before it came back to us, and we passed it as a first read about a month ago or so, and so this is our third time seeing the policy at this point now. And so I'm curious to see what the governing board wants to do tonight in terms of wordsmithing this, in terms of accepting it as is, and letting the staff roll with it and come back to us with any revisions needed after we see how it works in the field, or whether we don't feel like it's ready yet for us to adopt and to continue working on this.
Dr. Shaw.
Ms. Ekstrom.
So when you looked over these comments, how many were implemented in the revisions?
I don't know that I could put a number on
Okay.
how many. So, we tried to solicit feedback pretty actively with this policy. And in doing that, when we got comments, we tried to sort of balance, and we did get comments from school staff at all levels of schools. We did our best to try to balance that with the policy as it stood, and the sort of the practicalities as we understood them. And of course, if there's something we missed or that the board wants to see that's not there, that's why we're here tonight, to make any final revisions if they need to be made. But we did consider all of the comments that came in and tried our best to implement them where we could, or to balance them where there were conflicts.
I guess what would help me is the questions that are asked in these comments, if we could get a reply from council on if it's accurate, or like, for example, they talk about, the use of social media and being friends with their colleagues, that kind of thing. It's those little things that people are going to be hung up on. And right now, I'm not confident in approving this tonight, because I really need to go back and look at the comments and then look at this policy, I guess with a fine tooth comb. Because if you're not able to tell me what was implemented and what was not. I'm going to have to do that myself.
Well, so I can tell you that the things that we changed from the first read to this read are the items that are track changes in the
Right.
document that are in red. So those are all the things that are added. And I did see the comments about concerns about speech outside of work. If I post something on social media that's, complaining about my job after I get home, is that an impingement on my First Amendment rights? And this policy, first of all, only covers employees at work. And what we're talking about is, when there's discussion about awareness of how you present the district or how you represent the district, it is specifically, and we've added this language to try to be clearer, when you are conducting district business, we would never presume to govern the conduct of employees outside of the workplace in district policy.
And then my other concern is with the comment about ASL and interpreters. So was that looked at? It's
You have to remind me which.
So I have Amazing Lesson video posted on YouTube. I cannot use these if the district has to approve and or post them.
So, I think this would fall into when we talk about district approved technologies. The district currently allows access to YouTube. I don't really see why this would change anything. We're not asking for district approval of each and every post or item that is accessed online. It's it is broad categories so that we're not using things that are insecure, that are not sort of within the boundaries of district control and guidelines.
Okay.
Mr. Romero.
So during all this time, how is it mostly just you working on it, or are you working with Rob on this?
So yes, both of us are certainly working on it. We have a paralegal or legal assistant. I don't totally know her title anymore, but
legal assistant. Yes.
But Adriana Post in our office has also been working a lot with it. And as I said, we've this incorporates the ASBA model policy on this, as well as the State Board of Education guidance on it. So that was the starting point, was from those guidelines and recommendations. And then over time, I think all three of us have played parts in tailoring it to try to address board concerns, to try to address comments that have come up.
And based on how much you guys have been working on it, and this is the third time coming up for us, how many hours do you think have been put into this?
I don't know. I don't want to estimate.
So obviously it's a lot. So
it's a number, yeah.
Yeah. And then you also mentioned, if there's something we need to tweak, we could always bring it back up to say, hey, this isn't working, or we want to modify this a little bit more. And I think valuing your expertise with the three of you that have been working on it, and then having the option to come on back, I think we should have something on policy sooner than later, because we know some issues that have come up because we haven't had this policy in place. And I think we would not be doing a good service to the district by not accepting it as it is. And I'd like to make a motion to vote on it as is.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. So I really appreciate all the work on this. There was focus groups, and we have the documents in our board docs. So members of the community, it's the public portion of a board doc, so that you can see the focus group feedback. We've received a lot of comments. I know you've been working on this for a while, and I think one of the feedback that we gave at the first time it came to us, is making sure we had more input from staff members that this would affect directly. And I know we've received a lot of teacher and staff as well as principal feedback over these last couple of months, and it looks like a lot of that was incorporated into some of the revisions of this. So I'll go ahead and second this. I don't think this is perfect right now. I think this is at this point good. I know we'll hear from teachers and staff if there are anything in this policy that is impeding their ability to effectively communicate with students and parents and do their job. And so I encourage teachers and staff to, if there are parts of this policy, this is a new policy, that aren't working or that is really limiting your ability to have the proper communication you need with our community members, please let us know so that we can direct our council to make revisions if we need to, if something isn't working from this policy.
I have a question. So
Ms.
then
Ekstrom and then Ms. Shaw.
how will this be monitored? Just by feedback from principals and teachers?
Exactly. In terms of how it's going over, whether
Correct.
whether we're sort of reaching the right kind of things.
Mhm.
I would expect we would get feedback from staff and administrators at school sites.
So say that this is a complete fail, how long would it take to come back to governing board to make those edits and changes?
I don't think it's going to be a complete
Well,
fail.
I'm a worst case scenario person, so just go with me.
I mean, I expect we're gonna implement it if it passes tonight. When we roll out, we communicate to everybody, and it's gonna really sort of be in effect starting in November. It's gonna take some time. I couldn't tell you exactly how much before we start hearing complaints, but if they come in and they're substantive and we need to come back and fix something urgently, I mean, we can come back and do that in November.
Okay.
But if they're minor, they just need tweaks, or we'll have to kind of weigh that as we go.
And I do appreciate all the work that's being done on it. I'm just not comfortable approving this today. Thank you.
Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. Jean, if we can scroll down to page 3. So I'm just concerned because there's some open-ended things here. If you look at like the second paragraph that we're looking at, the superintendent shall establish which technologies are approved for use by employees to communicate with parents and students. If we don't have those established, I think that's sort of, it feels dangerous for the staff. And then like moving on to the next paragraph, the superintendent shall determine which records retention and management guidelines as established by the Arizona State Library, yada, yada. And then in that next paragraph, it says violations of this policy may result in disciplinary action up to including termination and may constitute a violation of federal and state law. And so, if we don't have those things explicitly spelled out, I don't think the policy is ready. I think all that information should be outlined in the policy so that staff don't have to rely on their principals or, the superintendent communicating that information to them, because once we pass it, it goes into effect, right? Mr. Ross?
I think a lot of those things don't get into our policies because they evolve so frequently. So I think whether it's the superintendent or his designee, making sure that those details are communicated out and updated every year, I think is what the intention is of the policy. Mr. Ross, and then.
Yes, thank you, President Shaw. I was going to respond similarly in terms of the technologies that are approved. That's already a process in the district about whether applications are approved for use. If we list them, it's going to be obsolete tomorrow because they're being requested every day. Maybe not every day, but at least weekly. And then in terms of the records retention, I mean, that's the State Library and Archives. That's not even in the district's control, but we want to make sure we flag that we have an obligation to communicate what the current retention and destruction schedule is to employees, and that's one of the reasons I think this was in the ASBA model as well, that we wanted to put that in there. And I think Ms. Ekstrom had pointed it out as well in an earlier version. So we could list all of that stuff, but we'd probably be bringing it back to you for revisions all the time. We could also put those, some of them are in regulation, for example, the retention and destruction schedule.
And I guess, going back to the purpose of this policy is really to protect everyone involved, to protect our staff and our administrators from making sure that they're aware of the proper use of technology and there isn't any inappropriate communication, and also protecting our students and our families just to make sure that there's so many ways to communicate, and going back to here's the way we should be communicating, here's what the district expectations are to help protect everyone involved. So I'm glad that we're putting together something that technology is ever changing and ever evolving, and the details of this and implementation will change as technology changes. But I'm glad we have a framework for a policy and on how to guide some of that. So we have a motion and a second. Motion by Mr. Romero, second by myself. Is there any further discussion? Questions or comments or feedback? All right, all those in favor of this policy, this new policy, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Right, all those opposed?
No.
Nay.
All right, the item fails 2-3. And this was an action item, not a study action, so this is ends this policy at this point. Okay. All right, I'm going to move us on to our next item, item 8.1, proposed K-6 configuration pilots, school year 24-25. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, Dr. Shaw, members of the governing board, I'd like to welcome Mr. Bryant Nodine to the podium to discuss a pilot that we have for governing board consideration. In accordance with our post-unitary status commitment, we will be also, the primary focus of this presentation is addressing the performance impact analysis that is required anytime that we make major or propose any major changes. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Bryant Nodine. We had done some work on this prior to COVID. It is no secret, anybody that has followed TUSD enrollment trends, that unfortunately, at the sharp end of all of our enrollment losses year after year, it's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And specifically, families hesitant to send their students from the confines of an elementary K-5 setting, where they may have 200, maybe 300 other learners, where they may have a more stable learning environment, to schools that are sometimes 3 or 4 times the size of what the elementary school is. It's not a new phenomenon. We've seen, and we'll share some enrollment data that will confirm that there's flight from the district at these grade levels. And there's flight also at 5th grade, as parents are concerned about what the 6th grade option is. Also looking at academic outcomes, we looked at the possibility of keeping kids for one more year, which is a very, very formative year, that 6th grade year, before they make the leap to the bigger middle school environment. This is not an attempt to replace 6th grade at any of our comprehensive middle schools. It actually confirms some of the things that we heard at the call to the audience that are actually best practice. So I know that the call to the audience was more of a critique, but the comments were actually confirming best practice. You do want students at this grade level in smaller learning environments. Especially when you're dealing with algebra readiness and you're dealing with literacy across content areas. Yes, you want a smaller campus learning environment. You do need a smaller class size if you're dealing with students that are off grade level coming in. So there are actually really good reasons, particularly at 6th grade, why we entertained this before the pandemic. Enter the pandemic 2020, like many initiatives and many goals, this was put on hold. So now we're back, now that we have an opportunity here to go forward, but this time, different from what we originally discussed with the board in 2019. We really only are looking at a pilot, a small set of schools where we have some pretty good parent support at the elementary schools level to really take a look at keeping their students for one additional year. So with that sort of setting the context and the backstory, I want to turn it over to Mr. Bryant Nodine.
President Shaw, members of the board, you have in your packet a performance impact analysis. It's a 24-page detailed analysis of this project, and that's put together in accordance with the Unitary Status Plan. This outlines some of the sections in that performance impact analysis, or PIA. I'll just hit some of the high points in this presentation and not go through it in detail. First of all, what are we doing? We're looking at adding a 6th grade to select elementary schools, and there's 10 being proposed for your consideration. And it's important to understand that this is not mandatory. This is by parent choice. So that's a key element of it. And I want to go through some of the objectives that are in Section 2 of your PIA. First of all, we're trying to prepare prepare sixth graders for departmentalized instruction in a environment that they're familiar with and comfortable with. We want to improve the transition of students from elementary schools into the middle school, and as Dr. Trujillo mentioned, we lose students in that transition every year. It's been up as high as 500. It's probably about 400 now on the average, and that means if we lose them in one grade, we lose them in 3 grades, so that's 1,200 students right there. And then we're looking at reducing size of some of the bigger middle schools so that there can be a smaller environment, more of a staff-student focus. And through that, achieve better academics and better discipline stats. Because the research indicates that students do better in smaller environments. And in K-8 schools in particular was one of the things that the research focused on. And then we're doing it also because there's a strong parental preference. I'll go through that a little bit more. But that's in particular in these schools that we've selected. There's all of them are close to 50% or well over 50% preference for the K-6 option. And then those are the primary objectives that we're trying to achieve. And this is what we're expecting for outcomes. First of all, as I said, the research indicates that this is a successful model. As I said, parents prefer this option, so we expect to have more opportunities for parents to keep their children within TUSD. Smaller schools, as we said, have better student-teacher relationships. That's an anticipated outcome. And we're looking at creating models for departmentalized instruction that aren't a lot of movement of students, but more like one movement between like ELA and science math. So a student can move from one teacher to another, but there aren't a lot of movements. So it's a little more familiar for a sixth grader than going to a middle school where there's a lot more moves. It's a 7-period day. Now on the negative side, these are some of the issues that we've identified. Middle schools do have and will have more opportunities for enrichment. And one of the things we're looking at, there's 2 things there, and I'll hit those in a later slide too, but it's sports and electives. Those are the 2 things. And we're looking at how we can provide electives in the elementary schools. A lot of the administration of these elementary schools have already started on looking at what they would provide for elective, AVID type electives and fine arts. We've talked with OMA about providing additional resources to help create those fine arts opportunities for the 6th graders in the elementary schools. And in terms of the sports, we're working with interscholastics in ways that we can create teams. First of all, individual sports, there's not a problem there. It's when you get contact sports and students of severely different ages get together for those sports that it gets harder. Basically, you can only put 2 grades together. So we have to look at how we can create a 5th and 6th team and who they're going to compete with that will work out. So we're working with interscholastics on options there. And then another aspect is there are some additional costs. A lot of the costs come in the first year with technology and outfitting classrooms and providing portables for schools that are near capacity. And then the addition of a 6th grade will create additional enrollment, obviously, and also potentially additional stress for the elementary schools. And that's being, but it's important to understand that the research shows strongly that the discipline issues in K-6 schools, K-8 schools, for sixth graders are much less than in middle schools. And then, as was mentioned, we will may only delay the transition for 1 year. I mean, it is a transition that's only delayed 1 year, so that may only retain students for that sixth grade in the elementary schools. We'll have to see how that plays out. But we've projected only that retention for the sixth grade in the elementary schools. And then it's important to look at also how we chose these options. That's in section 4. Basically, we were looking at the capacity of the school. Can it fit the students? And every school here can fit the students, except Henry will need portables, and those students will not need to go into those portables. Gale will need portables, and those students will probably have to go into those portables. And in VC, there are 4 existing portables that are already outfitted, already have technology, and are actually being renovated already that the sixth grade would go into. So we looked at the capacities of the schools, looking for ones ideally that had the capacity. We looked at sixth grade size. Ideally, you want 2 sixth grades so that you can do the departmentalized model. We looked at parental preference, picking the schools where there was at least a 50% or close or stronger parental preference. Keeping students, where are the schools that we're going to retain and keep more students, at least for that sixth grade. We looked at middle school size. We didn't want to pull students from schools that were already small. We picked a couple of the bigger middle schools, and we looked at the costs. And based on that, what you can see here is the greener ones are the ones that are meet these criteria better. And so they're more the priority ones. And they're in the east and north and in the southwest. And I also want to talk about the ability to retain students, and that's shown in this next slide. What you see here is capture rates. Capture rates are the TUSD enrollment, and in any school, it doesn't matter, for that age group, in this case, K through 5, divided by the total enrollment, total population in that age group that are in that census block group. And so what you see here is some of our census block groups have retention rates of less than, or capture rates of less than 25%. On the average, it's about 50%. So we're looking at those areas where there's a potential to get students back into the district, to retain those students and gain. And so the lighter areas are where we can have the most gain. So we don't look at it as loss, we look at it as the potential for gain. And what you can see is, again, that's in the north and the east, less so in the southwest. So in the north and east, the factors there were parental preference and gains of students. And in the southwest, it was primarily a very strong parental preference, as you'll see as I show you some of the data. And I just want to go through the schools quickly. What you'll see is on the southwest side, we're looking at Linerkeys, VC, and Banks. They all feed to Valencia. And then on the north, we're looking at Davidson and Whitmore. They feed to Doolin, and to a lesser extent, Whitmore feeds to McGee. And then in the northeast and east, we're looking at Collier, Henry, and Steele Gale and Soling Tom. And Collier feeds into McGee. Henry, part of it feeds into McGee. It's a split feeder. And then Steele Gale and Soling Tom feed into Gridley. So with that, I'll go through some of the data. First of all, looking at Gridley in the northeast, we expect Gridley to lose about 63 students. It still has at least 4 classes in the 6th grade, at least, and probably 5. And that still makes it bigger than half of the remaining middle schools that are in the district in terms of sixth grade. Sechrist, I'm going to forget the other ones. Sechrist, Henry, Doolin, all of those are smaller, and so is Safford as well. The feeders into that are Gale. It's an A school. There's a good parental preference, and it would have, all of the schools will have 1 to 2 classes you can see in the sixth grade. Henry is a split feeder, and it's a B school. Soling Tom is a C school, but you can see it has a very strong parental preference, 75%, and I actually think that's a little higher based on what the principal's saying now. And Steele is a D school with kind of an 50-50 parental preference. In terms of McGee, the impact is only about 17 students, that it would get smaller in the sixth grade. Collier only has 8 students now in the fifth grade. So that's one of the ones we put kind of on the edge, because we'd want to provide a teacher for that sixth grade, but we would have a teacher for only 8 students. The anecdotal information from Collier, it's not actually anecdotal. They do withdrawal surveys of parents when they withdraw, and they say they've lost 20 students in the last 6 months, over the summer basically, who withdrew to Tanque Verde and Catalina Foothills. And they feel that if they could provide the sixth grade, that would help to retain those students. And that makes sense, because if you look at Tanque Verde, Emily Gray, which is where most of them go, is a 7-8 school. Henry, I won't go through that again. Whitmore is another one that feeds to McGee. And you can see it has a little bit of a majority in terms of parental preference. It also is a school that there's a lot of interest in doing it, and they have a facility that's perfect for it, where they have a pod of 4 classrooms. One is a academic classroom, and one is a science, or a lab, I should say. So there's a pair for fifth grade and sixth grade of ELA and math science rooms that are right in that pod, so it would be perfect for them. Going to the southwest area, what you can really see here is the preference from parents is strong, and the impact on Valencia in terms of sixth grade would be about 90 students less, still a relatively large sixth grade. And VC is the largest school for the sixth grade. It would have at least 4 classes in that sixth grade. And they, as I said, they do have the portables for it. And you can also see the letter grades there too. The one thing about VC is it is in a growing area, and it is a large school, but they also have an array of portables that are available that could be renovated. We're only renovating the first 4 at this point. The other side of it is we also have money in the bond to put in permanent structures on VC. And then going into the north central schools, we're looking at a very small impact on Doolin with 1 to 2 classes of sixth grades in Davidson and Whitmore. So those are some of the impacts that we have that you can see. And so in summary, relative to the unitary status plan, there's virtually no impact on racial ethnic composition of any of the affected schools because we're really working with the same communities. It's just moving the sixth grade, some of the sixth grade from one school to another. In terms of our other obligations, it came up in an email that you may have seen today. There's no impact on transportation because you're using the same routes and the same buses. There is improved quality of education and discipline based on the research. We certainly expect that. I talked about the sports already, and really all of the electives and so on. They're going to be a little less in the middle schools, in the elementary schools than in the middle schools. On the other hand, if a parent is really interested in sports and their child is interested in sports, they do have the option of going to the middle schools. All elementary schools, all the facilities of the elementary schools that we're considering are in above average condition, so we're not moving students into a school that needs a lot of work. And there's no impact on the other obligations in the USP. In terms of the schedule, this gives a more detailed schedule, but I'll hit the key points. The key points are open enrollment starts on November 6th. Okay, we're going to bring this to you on November 14th for a final decision. And after that, notification will start based on your decision. And the online enrollment is scheduled to open on November 20th. That gives us time to take whatever your decision is and make sure we have it set up in our programs so that parents can enroll online starting on the 20th for those schools that will become K-6. And at that point, it's open for questions, comments.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nadeem, for the presentation. I just want to start with a clarifying question. And so this is a pilot with just a small pilot of 10 of our elementary schools, and there's no obligation. If a parent wishes to keep their child in that school for 6th grade, they have the option to do so. If they don't want to do that, if their family and student choice is to move on to a middle school for 6th grade for those 10 schools, they still have that option. So this is a really good experiment for us to really see on the ground what will be the parental and student preference going into the next school year.
That is correct. This is an expansion of choice. So any parent is free to opt in to the standalone 6, 7, 8 middle school, whether that's Valencia, Pister, McGee, Sechrist, Dodge, or they can choose to remain as an additional year of 6th grade. This is also addressing the concerns that we've heard over and over again about our 6th grade math teachers and our 6th grade ELE teachers. They need smaller class sizes because of the work that they're doing to try to bring students up to algebra readiness and trying to get students to read on grade level. This is an attempt also to address the academics that we need to address when we're working with students that are off grade level. And what we do know also is this is the fattest portion of our enrollment loss for the last 3 years. We sat a year ago and we heard in our 100th day enrollment presentation that 367 6th through 8th grade students left the district. Now, thankfully, you had higher high school enrollment that buffeted that number, but that doesn't change the fact that this is the grade band, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, that is more likely to leave us. We have the lowest capture rates for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade from our K-5s. This year, as we're processing 40th day, it's not going to be good for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We're basically staring at the same amount of students. So our parents have long sent the message that there are concerns about taking a 6th grader who has been for the first 5 years of their academic career in a small learning environment with the same set of relationships, the same teacher, the same crosswalk guard, the same counselor, the same schedule every single day, one teacher of record administering all the content, and then all of a sudden you're in an environment where there's 1,000 students and you now have 6 different adult personalities to navigate in content-based instruction. That is not proven successful for us. If you're looking at our previously AZ merit, but our academic skills assessment, if you're looking at disciplinary outcomes, and if you're looking at attendance. So this is an attempt on a small scale, like Dr. Shah said, to really put this to the test, to see if this test group, which would be the 6th grade test group opting in to a K-6, does significantly better academically, attendance-wise, and discipline in the 6th grade year versus a 6th grade student that is in the standard traditional middle school. So it is about choice. It is as much about choice as it is improving academic outcomes for sixth graders, and then also addressing the concerns that we've heard from our middle school teachers, particularly at the 6th and 7th grade level.
Ms. Luna Rose, you were going to say something?
I am. Thank you. And thank you for the presentation, Mr. Nodine. Couple comments, couple points. First one, how many? I saw that that there was parent participation. How many? How was that done?
There were 2 surveys that were done. Both of them were phone surveys where we asked parents to respond, and I can't remember all the particulars, but asking parents to respond, and we got 40% response rates, if I remember right.
Okay, and were they done in both English and Spanish, depending on where?
Depending on where they were.
Where they were, okay. Was there not any particular reason it was done electronically? Or was it done electronically?
I'm going to have to go back and look, because both surveys were done. One survey was done in 2019, and the other one was done last year. So I don't really remember the particulars of it. Let me just look at the PIA and see what it says.
Okay. Because I was a TUSD 6th grader.
It was an online, sorry to interrupt, it was an online survey.
Okay.
Where we went out to them through our, through the phones to let them know about the survey. That's what I was thinking of. And yeah, that's what it was.
Okay. Because I'm, as I was going to say, so I attended Bonillas all the way through 6th grade.
Mhm.
And then I went to Aliceville for 7th and 8th. So this was, I'm going to date myself, late 80s, early 90s. Okay. We all know how old I am now. So,
Stone Ages.
right. So this is nothing new for TUSD. And I'm sure some of those people sitting in this room probably went through the same thing, whether they went through TUSD or I'm getting some head nods. Yes. So, but I'm just concerned, and I know that we want to do this, for perhaps the upcoming school year, but I'm kind of concerned we're not getting enough parent participation. I mean, I've done my own internal survey with people that I know that have students who are in the 5th grade right now, and they're all in favor. I just want to make sure that we're capturing as many parents as possible before we make such a move. I mean, personally, I am in favor of this pilot program, but I just want to make sure that we have done that and we've done our due diligence.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much more we're going to get from surveys, right? Because we'll see. This is the whole point of the pilot. When we can survey as much as we want to, people think they're going to do something, but when they actually have a chance to enroll, this is a chance for us to see and whether this works or not, whether there is increased enrollment, and over time, whether there is academic improvements in this as well. So I'm really curious to see what happens on the ground if this were to pass and this were to go to fruition.
Sure.
And with this pilot, and whether then to expand this or whether to contract this and end this pilot if it's not going what we thought.
Another question, and maybe this is more of a Dr. Trujillo question. Why did TUSD move away from the student or junior? Because Aliceville was Aliceville Junior High and then became Aliceville Middle. So when did that happen and why did it happen?
Yeah, I had a great opportunity to talk to 2 of my predecessors from, who shall remain nameless, but great superintendents that were here in the early 2000s and the late 90s, mid 90s to late 90s. And really the move was purely operational. There was nothing research-based behind moving to 6th, 7th, and 8th. At that time, Tucson Unified was experiencing an enrollment boom. As new housing developments came up in the early to mid-90s, they needed to make room in the elementary schools for the increase in school-age children. And so you had all of the space in what was at the time 7th, 8th grade centric middle schools that had all of this space available. And so that was the move. In talking to one of the superintendents who told me, quite frankly, if I knew then what I know now, I would have never done it. The way that it has stunted literacy and stunted numeracy and getting kids algebra ready, the disciplinary issues that you face in this age that I didn't face necessarily when I was a superintendent. So what we know now is that smaller learning environments are exceptional for middle school age kids. When you look at the work that Taranika has done at Utterback, now Utterback didn't get there by design. Unfortunately, when it got demagnetized, it lost a lot of students. But that smaller learning environment and those smaller class sizes have really led to a great academic turnaround and a great disciplinary turnaround for the school. You look at Wakefield. Why parents want Wakefield? Smaller learning environment, smaller learning community. Dodge, smaller learning community. And that's the trend nationwide. So when we hear that you guys want to make smaller learning environments for these crucial grades, that's actually what we're trying to do so we can get that focused work done.
So my colleagues know that I'm a parent of a sixth grader, and I wish we had this opportunity to keep my oldest in her elementary school for her sixth grade year. I know two of my colleagues will be going through this very important decision on middle school in a few months, in a year or two, and knowing from the parents of my compatriots and who are also sixth grade parents is how many of them would have wished that we had another year at our elementary school before moving to the middle school. And again, not to knock the middle schools, we were very happy at Aliceville as a sixth grade family at Aliceville. But just knowing the learning environment, knowing our daughter, and knowing kind of how well she was doing in elementary school, and having another year there would have been something I believe we would have selected for her if we had that opportunity. And so this is a great way for us to create that opportunity and choice, and to really see what the community decides, and if that's what comes to fruition, or whether the community decides not to go through this opportunity and change. Ms. Ekstrom, I think you were about to say something, and then Ms. Shaw.
So say we have like 5 families sign up in one school. Are we going to keep those 5 families there for 6th grade?
Governing board member Ekstrom, we have to be very transparent. It's like summer school. It's like when we staff summer school, if you don't have enough students signing up for the summer school, you can't keep the teacher there for the whole summer school session and burn up our funding for 1 or 2 kids in the room. So the expression we use in our administrative business is the classes have to make. They have to make enrollment wise. So we would, and we'll be very, very generous and liberal, right? So the consensus agreement might say that for a full middle school class, we'll need 33. We'll try to make a class go at like 18 or 19 because we do want to see a viable number that will give us at least an opportunity to run a class at some of these sites. But just given the parent feedback as recently as last spring, I think it's going to be a lot higher than that.
And I will say, in touring middle schools, a lot of the principals have communicated to me there's a big difference between a 6th grader and an 8th grader, and trying to keep those populations separate is difficult. So I am in favor of this. I think it would be a good pilot to see what parents think and how our students flourish or not. So I'm all for this.
Ms. Shaw, and then Mr. Romero.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nadine, for the presentation. So I have a few questions. The PIA indicates some areas where some of these middle schools may be impacted financially. One of them lists that like Doolin and, Gridley and Valencia may lose FTEs, which could affect electives. And so can you go into more of the fiscal impact for the specific middle schools that we're targeting?
Yeah, so the 2 schools that you mentioned have the greatest potential reduction in 6th grade. Valencia, it would be about 90 students. So that's a potential for probably about 3 teachers. Okay, what does that mean for the school? It means that they may have to I'm not putting the schedule for the school together, but it means they may have to share some of the electives between the 6th and 7th grade. It doesn't mean that there won't be FTEs to support the opportunities. It will simply be that electives may be shared between 6th and 7th grade. And what I mean is not the students together, but a teacher may do 6th grade and 7th grade. And if that happens, then, okay, what team is that teacher with? And that's really kind of the key thing is, does that teacher work with the 6th grade team or with the 7th grade team? That's a communication issue. That's the primary thing that it is. And then with Gridley, it's about 63 students. So we're looking at a potential for probably just a couple teachers less.
Okay,
And I want to point out one other thing that came up in that, I think it was the email that went out today. It isn't a loss of teachers. Teachers won't be fired because we're actually adding teachers to support the elementary schools and the smaller class sizes.
So is the plan to then send those middle school students to transfer them to those elementary schools to be 6th grade teachers?
Yeah, in terms of the personnel aspects, yeah.
Now we're talking the DIT process, right? That's negotiated upon consensus agreement. Nobody would be out of a job. We have not a positive thing to celebrate, but we have a lot of teacher vacancies, particularly in middle schools. But most likely, Governing Board Member Shaw, we would try to keep a regional model where if we were going to do a K-6 at one of the Gridley feeders, we would want to try to give that opportunity to whatever Gridley 6th grade teacher would be interested in taking that assignment versus going into the DIT pool, which is the district at large.
Okay. And is that the only financial impact that we're seeing right now in the PIA or?
No, Table 2 goes through all the financial aspects. The two, one is FTEs, adding additional teachers, and then the other one is adding technology and portables to support the expansion of some of the schools. Not all of the schools need technology or portables, but about 8 rooms need technology, and we need to move 2 double-wide portables into 2 of the schools.
Right. I meant the loss of students at middle schools, like how will that impact their like overall?
It's really primarily FTEs.
Just the FTEs.
It's just the teaching staff.
Okay,
Thank you. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Romero.
So is this becoming like a model that other schools are using in Arizona and across the country, or is it just, like I said, a little pilot thing that we're just trying? Because I know you mentioned Tanca Verde, there was a 7-8, so I just didn't know if this is, other districts are doing that have better grade, proficiency than we do.
Yeah, I don't know how all of them evolved. You heard how we evolved, but some of the biggest districts in Arizona, as you'll see in the PIA, some of the bigger districts in Arizona are K-6 models.
Okay. And what was the feedback from like some of the middle schools that would be affected? Like, from the administration of the principals there, like from Valencia and Gridley and McGee and Sechrist.
Okay, I'd refer you to, let me find the page. There's a page that goes through issues, and we captured all of the feedback that we received on those. Let's see. Okay, so it's page 2. Goes through some of the potential issues. And not all of these came from the middle schools. Some of them came from the elementary schools too. What we talked about, the opportunities of the 6th graders. Because we're gradually implementing it, we're not going to be able to say right away that the 7-8 approach works. We'll be able to get an indication, but we're only hitting it with some of the schools, and we're not taking the 6th grade totally out of the middle schools. As I showed you, it really there's more sixth graders left in the middle school than taken out. We have, let's see, so the sports that I talked about, the costs that we already talked about. The main thing that I got from the middle school principals was loss of potential resources. And as I said, that's mostly related to electives, and it's mostly related to the sharing of those elective teachers between two teaching teams.
Okay, and then one more question on these portables. Are they just refurbished portables from schools that don't need them anymore? How does that work out?
If we have that and they're in good shape, yes, but I think we may, we priced it out at putting a new one in. Because I'm not sure we have any left that are in good shape.
I have a couple of follow-up questions on the financial aspects from Mr. Romero, Ms. Shaw, and I don't know if the question is better answered by Mr. Hernandez. So the dollar amount that's on there, just assuming like some of it is one-time cost, some of these portables, other things, some of them also probably some increased FTE to have these teachers in our elementary schools now managing the sixth grade classroom and curriculum. Is that correct?
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, essentially, we're just taking a look at FTE altogether based on base curriculum. When it comes to electives, for example, extracurricular activities, things of that nature, we provide stipends based on the number of students they have. We take a look at the population of the entire school. So to a point that you made earlier, this doesn't preclude not only from existing fifth graders going into sixth grade to go to Valencia, for example, but it also doesn't preclude sixth graders that may be coming from other surrounding schools to attend Valencia that may offset to a certain degree some of the enrollment so that there aren't losses for FTE or losses for other types of enrollment related budget expenses, because FTE is the biggest one by far.
Okay, so there's nothing in there about, we're assuming a flat enrollment. We're not assuming any increased enrollment when we talk about the costs.
Correct.
Because there might be less of a cost if there's increased enrollment, which we don't know that based on,
That's right.
on right now. And so it might be less than that 1.3 million. And I'm looking through the PIA, and I apologize if it was in there, but it wasn't in the presentation. What of that 1.3 million is one-time costs, and what of it is recurring costs?
So the FTEs are recurring costs. So the technology and the portables are one-time expenses.
But what of that 1.3 million dollars?
All of it. Oh, the one which is $756,000 based on what's on this page. So $756,000 would be an ongoing expense for the FTEs.
In which some of that might be mitigated by increased enrollment if that were to
Correct.
occur. Okay. What page is that on? That's on page 6. Okay.
6.
Okay. Any other questions or anything else from the governing board? Ms. Shaw?
Thank you. And so I know this pilot program doesn't really, the whole transition from middle school to junior high isn't a part of the program, and that's sort of one of the goals. And so if we do pass this tonight and we do it for like a year, at what point are we going to explore modifying one of our middle schools into a 7-8 junior high?
That's a bigger conversation. I know that here we're trying to work within a pilot. If we're actually looking at the reconfiguration of a 7-8 and the elimination of a grade level where students would no longer have that grade level available, and they had to choose the K-6 amongst all the feeders, or we had to be in a position where we had to redraw some boundaries. Now we're getting into statutory requirements about public hearings and things like that. So the only way that a reconfiguration of a 7-8 would occur without triggering the boundary review process, which has a statutory public hearing, was if absolutely no boundaries changed whatsoever. A grade level was no longer available at that middle school, but kids fell into exactly the same schools that they were attending for K-5 and had the option to return for 6th grade. Now, what we've seen is that's hard because not all feeders have the same capacity. And that's really what influenced our selection of these schools, was that schools had capacity. But In order for us not to have that process, it would have to be everybody, all of the affected sixth graders would have to land perfectly into their neighborhood school with the same transportation routes, no impact on transportation, and still able to do open enrollment if they wanted it, where they could still attend another 6, 7, 8 school, or they could still attend a K-8 school if they wanted to transfer to one.
Okay. Yeah, because I feel like, we're going to do one pilot program and then we're going to do another pilot program. So I would be more apt to do both at the same time. And I know it's supposed to be a small portion of our district, but, there's a lot of schools impacted. And so I don't know if we can kind of taper down and maybe just do the schools that feed into Doolin and Valencia. But I would be interested to see how the middle school to junior high transition plays out. And I think they should happen simultaneously.
Mr. Romero.
So do we know, based on the reason why we're doing this is to retain more students within our district in some of those areas, do we have that number that is our potential that we will possibly, or what, through the things that I might have overlooked it on here? That question.
Same table, 40. It was 42 in the same table you were showing.
Okay, the same one. Okay.
Yeah, on page 6.
All right, and then on the pilot program, is it like just 2 years because you have year 1 and then year 2 on there as far as on the table, or what's the plan as far as how long we're going to do this test?
The pilot program is geared toward going as long as it's successful at the school. So if we have parents that are interested in staying in that 6th grade for a long period of time, then we would just continue that program. It would only be, I can see the only way we would reverse it is if we just didn't have parental choice to support it.
And what if, say, like the east side schools do well with it and maybe the southwest schools don't do? Would we adapt those accordingly?
I think that's hypothetical.
Well, hypothetical, yeah.
I don't have an answer for it.
I think it's upon us to decide. This is a board decision, and we need to ask for data. And so obviously if we do pass this, then my expectation would be this comes back to us in October of next year when we have hopefully our 40-day enrollment, and we can see what this means on the ground in terms of actual retention and enrollment in our schools. Some of them might not be successful. We might need to stop. And if it's very successful, we might want to expand this, and something that we can decide as a governing board next school year and what to do in the future school year. Dr. Trio?
The 40th day is going to be your measuring stick a year from now. And your retention rate is going to be your key metric. The percentage of 5th grade students at the schools that historically have left us for a middle school option at a charter, private, or neighboring school district that actually stayed. So we're now going to look at the increase in the school's retention. And then part 2 of this item, pending action tonight, we're going to return with the instructional model. So the instructional model will inform the board and the public of our instructional approach, our orientation, our onboarding, our scheduling that we will give the in-house 6th graders to prepare them for the 7-8 experience to come. So this is the infrastructure, sort of the physical part of the initiative, and then we will return for part 2, which would be, and I think that's what Governing Board Member Shaw was alluding to, what does the transition program look like for students that are here? Because we don't want them to just be here for 6th grade and then leave us. We don't want a delayed enrollment loss. We want them to feel confident going into the 7-8 environment, going in there for their 7th, 8th, so that they remain with us and ultimately finish their middle school, those that are opting to do this K-6.
I think we've had some great discussion tonight, so I will move the item for the pilot project.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any other further questions or clarification or feedback? Ms. Shaw.
Thanks. So I'm looking at the numbers as far as the sixth grade enrollment for some of these elementary schools. And so, yes. So you asked those student populations, like aspirationally, if we did, you know, create a sixth grade class at this school, would you enroll? Is that what happened? Because I'm just concerned that like
That is. We asked the parents.
Okay, was it an official enrollment or just like, oh, would you if we did this?
It was a would you if we did this.
Okay, because yeah, I'm like, you know, we haven't passed this yet, but I'm seeing like enrollment numbers for some of these elementary school students, which is a little concerning without board action being taken. And so do you anticipate that if we do pass this tonight, that those numbers will increase for those elementary schools?
I think in general they will increase, but I think that will be a trend as parents become aware that this is an option. It's not something that's going to happen, immediately. It's more something that they'll see that there's an opportunity here, and the word will spread, and they'll take advantage of it bit by bit.
Okay, so
and that's just an opinion.
Right. But if those numbers were to double or triple, do we have capacity at those elementary schools to handle the influx?
This is really moving all of the fifth grade. The projections for the sixth grade in the elementary schools assume that all of the fifth grade is going to move into the sixth grade the next year. I think it's going to be less than that, because some will opt for that middle school experience. I mean, parents are going to look at their child. They know their child better. They'll look at their child and say, is this child ready to move forward into a bigger environment, into a more self-determined environment, where they need to, where there's more structure, or are they more comfortable in a familiar environment? Are they one that is better to keep in the elementary school? And the parent will make that decision.
Okay, thank you.
So some of them may decide to move on to the middle school.
All right, so we have the item before us, moved by myself and seconded by Ms. Luna Rose. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item passes 5-0. Really excited about this pilot and really curious to see what parent and family choice is and how this means for our academic achievement for our students. So thank you for all your work on bringing this pilot to us.
Thank you.
I want to take a moment to thank the governing board for this authorization. This has been about almost 3 years in the making, so we're excited about this as well.
All right, we're going to move on to item 8.2, consideration of the 2024 TUSD Governing Board meeting calendar. Dr. Trio.
Yes, for this item, my colleague and I, Mrs. Borboa, will be handling any governing board questions, primarily Mrs. Borboa, who put the prospective dates together. These are the proposed dates for governing board meetings taking place in the calendar year 2024, starting January 1st, running all the way through December 2024.
So we did look at, we did for the most part have our standard, the second and fourth meeting on Tuesday. There are, of course, a few months that we had to kind of make adjustments. The first, for January, our organizational meetings always were landed on the first week when we came back from winter break, but that can be changed a little bit. And I've asked Rob to kind of help me to explain that part. I don't know if he can.
Sure. So there's a statutory change that's effective in a couple of days here that current statute says that you have to have your organizational meeting between the 1st and 15th of January. Now you've got the whole month to choose from. So you have an extra 2 weeks in which to put your organizational meeting. But if you're looking at a situation where you've got new members coming in from an election, and this is maybe not 24 but 25, and setting a precedent for that, the new members are automatically seated on the 1st. So you probably don't want to have a meeting a business meeting before doing an organizational meeting when you have new members coming in. So that's just something to think about more for 25 than for 24.
So right now we have it proposed, I have the organizational meeting scheduled on the first Tuesday when we do come back, if you guys want to still continue that process, or if you want to hold it like maybe on the 16th at the regular meeting, have that part first and then go into your regular meeting.
I would prefer that.
Me too.
So having it on the 16th?
Yes.
Rob, just one question. Do we have to start the organizational part earlier than the regular meeting, or can we do it just all on?
So
starting at
for
4:30?
24, you could put it in any order you want to.
Okay.
My advice is that if you have to members coming on, you wouldn't want to do anything before doing the organizational meeting.
Okay. So I'll put it for the 16th then.
Okay.
February was pretty standard, the 13th and the 27th.
So the 27th, I have a conflict, but that doesn't mean that you all can't have a meeting.
Okay. Do you want to keep it the way it? Okay. March, we did have to change a little bit because of spring break, so we had to do it on the regular meeting for the first Tuesday of the month, and then the 26th for the special meeting. April landed the second and fourth Tuesday. May as well was the second and the fourth Tuesday. I don't know if there was any concerns on that one. The special meeting would be coming after Memorial Day, so. June, we did make an adjustment. We did it back to back with the 4th and the 11th because of people taking off towards the end of the month, especially with July 4th. So we weren't sure if, I don't know if you're okay with these dates or.
Okay.
Okay. July was our standard second and fourth meeting. And then August also was our second and fourth meeting of the month.
Question on the July meeting with the 9th. Is the school district is closed that week of July 1st? Is there going to be an option to have the meeting agenda items ready for review, or should we make that the 16th and 23rd?
I think we could set up for a 16th to the 23rd. I think this team has shown that we can do the back-to-back and some planning, and our agenda reviews, those times where we can do two agendas at once, seem to work out well. I do think it is easier, as Dr. Shaw noted, if you're coming off of a break, to get up and running instead of coming right into a meeting. So I think that would be a good recommendation.
Is Thursday, August 1st, the first day of the school year?
August 1st is the first day of the school year.
I just forgot, that we do need a meeting by July 15th in order to approve the budget. Yep, absolutely. Forgot about that one. Yep.
Oh,
Okay, so we need to keep that.
Ricky, had to come run in here.
Okay, so we need to keep that 9th then?
Yeah, and we've done that in years past. We'll plan for that accordingly.
Yeah, we'll have the items in, and then I can usually post the Friday before.
Or do we want to have it on the 5th, so by the 15th, including Monday the 15th?
Yeah, it can be on or before.
Okay, do we want to move that then to the Monday the 15th? Is that okay for the governing board and for staff?
That would be great.
Okay, I'll give you that extra week.
Okay.
All right, so we'll make it Monday the 15th and then Tuesday the 23rd. Okay.
August the 13th and the 27th. On going back on July, I did. We can always move those. I had some tentative dates for student appeals for the promotion, retention, and failing grades, but I can always we can always change those ones. So August we had the standard second and fourth Tuesday. And then September, we have the standard Tuesday, the 10th, and the 24th for the special. And then October, we did have to change because of fall break being on that second Tuesday, so we have it on the 15th and 29th. You're okay with those ones?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. November, We only had one, we only put one meeting down for the 19th. Just with the holidays and then the election day, I don't know if you're okay with that one.
Yeah.
Dr. Trujillo?
Dr. Trujillo.
Support the one meeting, but I did want to speak to the reason we did two this year. We did two this year because of the special election the board called for, and because a lot of your major financial decisions will take place after that, which necessitated the 28th of November. But historically, as Mrs. Borboa notes, we typically recommend one meeting in November.
I think the 3 years that I've been on a board member, I think every year we've had a second meeting in November because there's always so much business to do. Yeah, but I see Thanksgiving is late next year, and so it'd be tough to do a post-Thanksgiving meeting like we have been the last couple of years. So I think we might need to stick to one. We can always add meetings if we need to. We realize that the agenda is getting too big, and the president next year decides to come to us with some extra meetings.
And then December is usually just the one meeting, which we have on December 10th.
Okay. All right. Any questions or anything else? All right, so I'll move the item as amended during our conversation. I think we would change the January meeting and the July meeting schedule.
Yes.
Is the only thing that we changed from the calendar posted.
Yes.
I'll second.
All right, item moved by myself and second by Ms. Luna Rose. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Item passes 5-0.
And then I'll note that on the minutes.
Great, thank you. All right, let me get back to my board docs here. Next item, 8.3, Arizona School Board Association information request. Dr. Trujillo.
At the request of President Shaw, there is a letter, if you will, requested action steps and information of the Arizona School Boards Association for governing board consideration. With that, I will turn it over to President Shaw.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. So I think, all of us here on the governing board are aware of the situation. I'll first start by saying, and I think the Arizona School Board Association is a really vital organization in our community, in our state. For those in the listening audience that's not aware of this organization, the Arizona School Board Association is an organization made up of school boards. So I'm not an individual member, but our school district is a member of, our school board is a member of this organization. And this organization advocates on the state level for issues affecting public education in our district. Provides a lot of education, legal conference, general conferences, a lot of education to us as school board members as well as to our staff leaders. It's a governing body for us to really advocate for important needs as a district on the state level and a local level. It also helps with collaboration. It brings together school districts from around the state for us to work together and collaborate and learn from each other. So I think it's a very vital and important organization. But there is some concern about its new executive director and whether all the information that was presented by the executive director was true. And during his application process to the organization, there's been some resignations amongst board members of the Arizona School Board Association and some concerns about the transparency and how the process was met out. So what this letter is hoping to accomplish is showing that our school district, our school board, as a member of the Arizona School Board Association, voices its concerns and is asking for an investigation and a report back to us as a dues-paying member of the Arizona School Board Association regarding its hiring of the executive director and mitigation strategies to make sure that this organization can continue to serve effectively as our advocate and as a leader of public schools and public school boards in the state of Arizona. Right, Ms. Luna Rose.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. I do agree with you in terms of, ASBA is an organization that we perhaps aren't as active in as being one of the bigger school districts, but we do utilize them when it comes to things like the legislature, bills coming down, conferences. I know you and Mr. Ross attended the law conference, and those are very viable and I think necessary things. I'm a little concerned about the letter, just in terms of, I mean, I know we are paying members, and I guess, we do have the right to ask this, but it just seems kind of, I don't know, I guess I'm feeling torn about this particularly. So I will defer to other colleagues to kind of hear their comments.
And so in terms of the intended audience of this letter, it goes to the board, specifically to the board president, but to the board of the Arizona School Board Association. And as a member organization, the ASBA reports to us. We are the boss of the ASBA of the board in terms of selecting the board and making sure the board is accountable to us as a dues-paying member of the organization. And that's why it was worded that way and addressed to the board president. Mr. Romero.
Yeah, I think, giving them a letter just to kind of draw out the process versus just not renew our membership. If you hit them where the pocket is, and then things will change that way. Do we know how much we pay ASBA for our membership?
Yes, Governing Board Clerk Romero, it's about $5,200 for general membership, and then there's like another $5,000 for legal and policy services. So out the door, it's about $10,200, $10,300.
I think that would make a big difference than a letter.
Well, I don't support leaving ASB. I still think it's an important organization. I think it does a lot of good work representing us and educating us and making sure I know Mr. Ross always brings up ASBA policies whenever we're doing any kind of policy revision or anything in terms of a lot of the language of our policies coming from the work that ASBA does. So I wouldn't support leaving the organization. I think it's an organization that needs some guidance, and I think us as dues-paying members organization needs to step up and make sure that they know that we are looking for more information about its hiring process and to make sure that this organization, the purpose isn't to punish the organization. We are members. This is our organization. We are the organization, but to make sure that this organization functions in the highest capacity that it can. Mr. Romero.
Well, I understand that, but also the integrity of the organization. If they don't do anything based on, the thing we're wanting to change, are we going to say, okay, well, we tried and, we'll just live with the lack of integrity for this organization and pay them our dues, and they're going to continue to do what they want to do? That's just where I don't, like I said, if they're going to continue to do this, their integrity is lost because they're going to hold on to this, even getting outside pressure from not just our board members, but I know it's different other board members in AMPI and Vail, et cetera. To me, we at least have to have that in consideration. If they don't change and follow through and become an integrity operation again, then we should consider leaving.
Well, that's our decision to make. If we feel that the organization isn't an effective voice for our school board and isn't effectively functioning to represent us, then that's a decision we need to make. I don't think we're there yet. Ms. Shah.
Thank you. I'm a little torn about this letter too. I think it is rather punitive. The investigation timeline is very short, and we're, asking to, I guess, oversee, a independent body that is doing its job essentially. Like, it was given the information and it chose to hire that person because they felt he could do a good job despite his inaccuracies in his resume. Me being at the county director meeting, it was pretty eye-opening when I spoke to the ladies at registration. I'm not sure any of us 3 members who have were elected together have ever been to that meeting. But, if we're interested in having a larger say at ASBA, I don't know why us, as the largest school district in Pima County, didn't try out to be directors. I'm not sure when the last time one of us from our board were county directors, but, there's ways that we can have more of a say at ASBA, and I think that is the better path than to kind of do this follow-up letter that mimics another letter that's floating around.
Ms. Luna Rose.
So I'm with Ms. Shaw in terms of the date. Was there any particular reason choosing the December 1st date?
I think it's prior to the December meetings that they have. And so that's why the request for investigation is for the next 6 weeks or so. And so there's some meetings. There's the state meeting in mid-December, I believe.
Yeah.
So prior to that, so they have the information ready for those who are attending that meeting as well as our request. And this is, in terms of the timeline, this isn't a new issue. They know this has been brewing for a couple of months now.
Okay.
Dr. Shaw.
Ms. Ekstrom.
Dr. Trujillo, has ASBA responded to any other letters from other districts?
No response.
I mean, I guess I'm torn. I understand the concern about the validity of the process, but also I understand that them choosing who they think is the best person to run the organization is also on their shoulders as well. But I'll support the letter.
And again, this isn't an independent organization. This is us. This is our organization. Right. We are the members. They report to us. This is representing us. This isn't some independent organization that we're trying to control from the outside. This is our organization.
I guess my concern is that they haven't responded to any school board district.
I don't know if any school districts have had a formal letter coming from the governing board asking for information.
So far, they've received a letter from past presidents of ASBA. They've not responded. I don't know if there is a letter that is circulating, as noted by Governing Board Member Shaw, that is seeking the approval of governing boards around Pima County. I don't know if that particular letter has been delivered yet. But I do know that the past president's letter has not received any kind of a response. I think there was another letter from a faction of the executive board that was in disagreement with the selection of the individual as executive director. I believe those requests have also gone unanswered as well.
And again, this is a person-led organization. I think people can make mistakes, and I'm not sure if a mistake was made. I think that's why we're asking for more information and an investigation to determine whether there was an error made in this decision or whether the decision was the sound, appropriate decision for the organization to continue to function in its highest capacity. And so what this letter is looking for is information as a dues-paying member of this organization. Okay, so I'll move the item.
Wasn't there a motion and a second already?
There wasn't.
No. Oh, okay.
I'll
second.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Ms. Shaw.
So it's my understanding that there was an investigation before they hired Mr. Palacio, and so you're looking for prior investigation and then an investigation about the board's actions during the hiring process.
Correct.
Okay.
Ms. Barra, go ahead, sorry.
Do you think that the timeline is feasible?
I think this isn't new news for them. This isn't the first time that they're hearing that there's an issue with this executive director. So I think the timeline is feasible because they should be prepared for this. This has been going on for months in terms of the questions about the hiring. And then, again, the timeline would put it in have this completed before the December meetings that they have.
Okay, and do we know how long his contract is at the ASBA?
I don't know that offhand. I'm not sure we have that information.
I think it's a 2-year.
2-year?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And
go ahead, Ms. Luna Rose.
So let's say they don't get back to us by December 1, then what would, I guess that would be up to the discretion of the board what we do next after that, correct?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Ms. Barbeau, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Romero?
No.
Ms. Shaw?
No.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Yes.
Ms. Luna Rose?
Yeah.
Dr. Ravi?
Yes, item passes 3-2. And so, Ms. Barbeau, if you can finalize the letter from this draft, and do you need a Word version from me, or is the PDF okay?
I think I have the Word version.
You have a Word, okay, great. All right, I'm going to move us on to our last study action item, 8.4, consideration of a policy revision to Governing Board Policy BEDH. Dr. Trujillo.
President Shaw, members of the governing board, there's been some comments from board members, largely here in this space in public meetings, regarding the potential continuation of a COVID era, pandemic era practice that we adopted of reading aloud into the record calls to the audience. As we are now fully open and we're fully convened for live governing board meetings, we have placed this item on the agenda for governing board discussion. We seek, there's absolutely no changes being proposed here to any portion of the call to the audience policy other than a potential discontinuation of the practice of reading written calls to the audience aloud into the record. That doesn't stop any particular community member from emailing governing board members directly. It doesn't stop any community member from emailing our coordinator for staff services, Ms. Borboa, for something to forward to all of you. And it doesn't affect our standard call to the audience, which community members are free to sign up for on a walk-in basis or call ahead. So we have the portion of the policy up here, redlined, if you will, crossed out, that is on the docket for discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. And I just want to say, to begin with, I think the person with the red pen was a little too generous on their red pen. I would, the second area that struck out, I would keep most of that sentence and only strike out or the reading of each written comment. So we're still talking about time frame for in-person call to the audience. All right. Ms. Shah?
Thank you. I'm not in favor of this revision. I think that the red comments should be kept because, one, it's an accessibility issue. Many of the people who write in may be immunocompromised. Maybe they live far away from Duffy and don't want to take the trek. You know, it could be any and all things. I would be interested in maybe adding some of the things that some of the other boards do as far as giving folks the opportunity to call in and speak like over Zoom instead of having their comments read by Ms. Yolanda. So yeah, I really don't want to axe that part of this policy.
I would say that any person from the community is able to email us before the meeting with any feedback or anything on the action items that we have in the board agenda. So this doesn't limit anyone's ability to contact us or to have their opinion heard by us as the deciding members of our community for this governing board. And so what this does is really goes back to the tradition of what call to the audience is meant to be, for people to be here, taking part in our meeting and being part of the meeting, not just from us outside, but really being here with us and then speaking to us directly with any concerns that they have during the meeting, and actually have a call out to the audience at our meeting for those who want to speak.
Right, but it prevents them from having their comments written into the record and being heard by the general public, not just us. I think it's important for the community to know what's happening around the district.
Ms. Luna Rose and Mr. Romero.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. So I'm in agreement with Ms. Shaw in terms of accessibility we're trying to reach all members of our public, and we've got perhaps family members who are people with disabilities, and they write in their comments and they want to have their voice heard. That's their right. So I'm wondering, because I know sometimes, and no offense to Ms. Borboa, but it's a lot to have her to, I think, read the comments. And sometimes I know that some of the comments, when they're inflammatory or uncomfortable for her to read, or any other person on staff, I think we should maybe consider having the board clerk maybe read them, just because the board clerk oversees that portion anyway. And if, I don't know if that's permissible, Mr. Ross, to have the board clerk. I mean, because I know we've had Mr. Aronoff, but it just seems that would be a natural progression to do that. I'm not totally trying to put you on the spot, Mr. Romero, but I think that's your purview as the board clerk right now, and that would go on for future board clerks.
Dr. Shaw.
Mr. Romero, I think first, and then Ms. Sexton.
No, go ahead. Good. So, both with you and Dr. Ravi and Ms. Shaw, if the people, it's important enough for the person to come on in, to stand in front of us, to present that. And again, I'm more of that personal thing. You're putting in that effort to come sit in these seats and to express your concern. But to Ms. Shaw, having something like a Zoom or a physical or call-in for those that can't get to the meetings, I did not even think about that as a possibility. But even if it's something live where they can call in versus necessarily reading on in, I would definitely be for something to amend that to help for call in or Zoom.
I was just going to say that most of the time we forego the written comments. So I would agree with Ms. Shaw about having a Zoom option. That I would support. But I would not support continuing with having someone read written comments.
Ms. Shaw.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm glad that there's some support for the Zoom. I do think, though, that we should still have the read comments be an option. Many people are just, shy and wouldn't even want the opportunity to speak via Zoom. And then also, Zoom is very confusing to certain populations who aren't used to it. I know there's sometimes a call-in number, but like unmuting and muting. And so I'm in favor of adding Zoom as an option. I'm not sure, Jane, if there's any capacity for that, if it would probably would take a moment to, make it run correctly. But I still think we should keep the emailed and read comments, whether it's Ms. Barboa who is reading them or the clerk. I would certainly volunteer to read some.
Ms. Luna Rose.
Not that I'm totally against Zoom, because I'm on it all day, every day. My only problem with the Zoom option, and I understand, again, I just spoke about accessibility, and that's why I was leaning more towards the written comments, but that if we have an open Zoom link, that could lead to a lot of security problems, because I deal with that, Zoom bombs, and then we would get unsolicited comments probably from people around the country about drag shows and whatnot. So I'm concerned that might be the issue. Plus, feasibly, Zooms, yes, sounds easy to set up, but in a situation like this, in this type of room and all the work that our tech crew has to go through, is that feasible? Will that work? I'm just, I'm thinking of those technical issues, not necessarily an accessibility issue.
So I think, in terms of people who are shy and don't want to come here in person, they can email us any feedback or comments that they have regarding any items that are going on in the district. And we have, all of us are accessible by email. You go to our TUSD governing board, all 5 of our email addresses are there. We all get emails throughout the week. Especially on Mondays and Tuesdays is when we get the most emails, if you're like me, people addressing issues that are on our governing board agenda, like we did today regarding the K6. We have some emails about that. We have some emails about other issues. that are active. And so I think, we are all very accessible via email. People reach out to us and call us. They find us on social media, and they find ways to message us on that as well. And so I think accessibility is there. People have ability to come to us with issues in the district, with questions or concerns or comments that they have about items that we are addressing as governing board members. And I appreciate your point, Ms. Luna Rose, about we don't want to have this forum be open internationally to anyone around the country that wants to weigh in on issues that we have as a district. Like, the call to the audience is meant as a community forum for members of our community to weigh in on issues that are happening in our district. And there really isn't going to be a way for us to regulate whether someone is coming from our community or whether they're coming from a surrounding neighborhood, or they're coming from Phoenix, or they're coming from Alaska, or they're coming from India or somewhere else. We have no way to regulate that on Zoom. And so the purpose of the call to the audience is for our community to come here in person and address us as a governing board that is responsive to our community. We are, as elected members, 5 elected members, our bosses are the 250,000 voters that are in our community here in the TUSD boundaries. And our call to the audience, our purpose to call to the audience is for those members of our community, for parents, for community members, for students, for staff to come here and address us and address issues that are relevant to them and relevant to all of us.
As someone who watches the Board of Supervisors meetings, every meeting, they do flawlessly have a Zoom call to the audience when needed. So I'm not sure what their policy is on people who comment. Maybe they need to give an address or whatever, but it probably could be done. But if that's not something that we would like to do, then that's fine. But I do not support continuing to have comments read. So whatever this board decides, but I just don't support continuing having comments read.
Ms. Shaw.
I just want to know why, though. Why?
Most of the time we forego the comments and they're emailed to us. So, here we are telling people we're going to have these comments read for the record, and most of the time they are not read on the record. They're emailed to us. So I don't see why we would continue this. Also, some of the emails that have been read to us are very uncomfortable for Ms. Borboa to read, and even for Mr. Aronoff to read. If they want to say those disgusting things, they can come here and say it themselves.
If I may, I have heard some calls that have been read that have some peculiar language in them, but I would say they're a minority with the typical letters that Ms. Borboa does read. For instance, the 2 letters that were read at our meeting today were from TUSD staff who, after a long working day, did not want to come in and sit here for an hour or more to, express their perspective on one of our issues. And so, I think this is what we're tasked to do, whether you're on the board or you're a board staff. And I think we should keep call to the audience as open and as accessible as possible.
To that point, Ms. Shaw, we did receive the email that was read into the record, so it was pretty much the same thing. They had emailed us today around 11:56 a.m.
Right, but the public didn't get a chance to hear it. I think it's important for the public to hear that, maybe they're thinking the same thing, and hearing it read to us, whether it's emailed to us beforehand or not, I think is important.
And I would argue again that if someone thinks that it's so important that their opinion gets heard and read to the entire community, then they should take the effort to be here. I know a lot of us that came here before we were governing board members. I spoke to the call to the audience a few times with a busy full-time schedule and young kids to take care of at home, and I still made the effort to come here to be heard when I thought it was important enough to do so. whether it was a member of the Family Life Curriculum Committee back in 2019 coming here to the meetings with a very, very busy schedule, or coming here talking. I remember coming here once talking about behavioral health and social workers many years ago before I was elected to the governing board. And again, everyone in the community has the ability to email us and communicate with us and contact us in many different forums and venues. But for I think it takes effort to come here and have your opinion heard by the entire community, more than just sending an email or a comment on social media.
Right, but some people just can't make that effort, and they still want to be heard by the public and by us. I really think this is the wrong idea. We should just keep it. It's been working okay. We could find a new reader. And as Ms. Ekstrom said, like other bodies that utilize a call-in number can do it flawlessly. And so I'm sure we can figure it out. But if there's not support for that, I'm really just hoping that we can keep the read comments.
Mr. Romero.
So I see where Ms. Shaw is going, that the public can see these things being read. But I think if we can maybe change this where we don't have the writing, but give them the option to call in or Zoom in, I think that would make it, again, for the accessibility for those that cannot make it. And I understand, I appreciate getting in these seats because, I was one of those that got in my seats as I was running, and I've seen other people do that as well. People that are concerned at their schools, things that are happening. I've had people come up to me and say, hey, this is happening at my school, what do? I say, well, come to the board meeting and talk to the call to the audience. Less than half of those people, after they ask me, how can I be effective? I tell them to come talk at the call to the audience, and they don't show up. And how easy is it just to write a letter and submit it in without going through the effort, like Dr. Shaw is mentioning. So I think at least even with the adding the call to the audience in one fashion, like I said, whether it be phone or Zoom, I think would be a nice compromise so that they can be heard still without like I said, reading the writing ones.
Ms. Luna Rose.
I could. I'm hearing both sides of the argument, and I agree with both sides. But my question is, call and Zoom is great, but again, do we have the infrastructure to do it? And Dr. Trujillo, I was going to ask you the question before because this is a study action item, so this could conceivably come back. Do we know what our neighboring districts do for their call of the audience? I would like to see how many. Pima County, and I know they do it and they have do it, but their IT department is, I'm sure, much deeper than what TUSD can.
Yeah, so I know I can speak to one capability I do know we have, and that's a good old-fashioned hotline to call in. We've done that for years with previous board members. Now that's not the best way for a board member to be fully participatory in a meeting, but for the purposes of a 3-minute call to the audience, it's a pretty straightforward, effective manner that we could give somebody an opportunity. Getting to a governing board member Shaw's concern about equity of opportunity, and that there's those in the community that may not even be able to come down here. If you're not even able to get to Zoom because you're struggling with an internet connection, then the good old-fashioned hotline, you would call Yolanda, check in, identify yourself, and then, of course, we would patch you through. That's definitely a possibility. In terms of Pima County, we would have to kind of follow up and see what each different school district has done with the call to the audience. I do know that when we were in the pandemic era, that pretty much all of the Pima County school districts had some form of a written submission to the call to the audience. But to my knowledge, all of that has kind of fallen away now as districts have gone back live. And the majority of them are pretty much, you have to come in and you have to address the board. That's not to say that there may not be one or two out there that still have the write-in option, but we can certainly follow up.
I wonder if we're creating a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Like, have we heard from anybody from community? I wish I would can call in or zoom into our call to the audience. Like, I wonder whether we're thinking too much on a solution that isn't really necessary. Again, we have a call to the audience, that's a traditional call to the audience that existed for decades, if not longer. And there are barriers. Of course, there's barriers. But do we start creating hotlines in Zoom? How many times do we not have the Pledge of Allegiance person on the Zoom at the right time, and we had to do it ourselves? Like, we're going to delay our meetings even further. We're going to eat into the call to the audience time more by trying to play around with technology and other things. And I think I haven't heard from any in the community that this is something that they want for us to do as a governing board, is find other venues for call to the audience, like hotlines and Zooms. Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. And we also haven't heard from anyone that, we should do away with that ability to write in and have their comments read. So I'm just not really sure where this is coming from. Since I've been a board member, I think modifications to the call to the audience has happened about 2 or 3 times. And there's been times where many of those revisions have, tried to kind of staunch the public when it was, any comment that wasn't about anything on the agenda wouldn't be read. Like, I think there's sort of a move to keep the public out of our meetings in some way, shape, or form, and I think this is one of the ways that we're doing this. And that's why I'm not in support of this. I think we should keep it as is, because it's working.
So I'll go ahead, Mr. Romero.
Real quick, I don't know if this is a Dr. Trujillo or Mr. Ross question. Is there a way for us to, I guess, get public comment on this topic, or how does that work, or does it not work that way?
Well, the assumed, unless the governing board actually goes out and specifies that it doesn't want to, always the assumed on a first read on something like this, on a revision, is that you're going to go through the public comment, which is part of the policy development process. The only time that it doesn't is if the board actually takes action to skip over that process. I haven't heard anybody saying that they want to do that, so my assumption would be whatever you discuss here when you approve this item, it has to go out for the public comment as part of the first read public policy development process.
Right, this is a policy revision, so if we end up passing this tonight, it will be a first read, and it will go to their normal process to come back to us in a month.
I'll move the item with Dr. Shaw's revision.
Ms. Luna Rose, you look like you have a...
I did not realize that. I should have.
Sorry.
So I'm talking to you. I guess maybe because it's a little late in the evening, I did not make the connection that this was a first read, so I'd be curious to see what members of the public would say.
All right, so the item is moved. I'll second the item. So the item is the revisions as noted here, minus the second set of revisions, where it's just the reading of each written comment is the only thing that's struck out. All right, Mr. Romero.
So just clarification, if we vote yes, this just means it's going to public comment. We're not voting on this.
This goes to public comment, and then it comes back as a second read. The only time that it wouldn't is if you voted to skip over the policy development process, which doesn't seem there's any intention to do that now. So we assume when we write BAI language that it's going to go through the policy development process anyway, unless there's separate action or a motion by a board member that passes.
Okay, and then I just want to make sure, so if I wanted to create something where we put like the hotline in here, would I do that now, or we would have to wait for after a second read?
Well, right now, this goes out for public comment as voted on. So if you wanted to make a motion to add the hotline, now would be the time to do it, and your board members would have to discuss it, agree to it. Once action was taken on a final version, that's the version that goes out for public comment. You could also do the same thing coming back from public comment to see what the public comments were about accessibility. And then when it came back for second read, which is your voting night, you could also enter into a conversation about potentially adding that language about a hotline.
Okay, I think I'd like to see something along those lines with a hotline into this one as it goes on out. That way, people that have accessibility issues can see that that is an option. But that would be one of my recommendations.
So we have a motion and a second, so you're making an amendment to the original motion.
Yes, I'd like
which
to
would
make
add
an
a
amendment.
hotline
which
option.
would add a hotline option, please.
I'll second that amendment.
Okay, so you have an amendment that's been seconded. Any further comment on this amendment?
I'll just comment that, like I said already, I think the hotline addition to this policy would be right on. I am not in favor of taking out the emailed and publicly read portion. But I will be supporting it so that the public can weigh in.
All right, I don't think I'm going to support the hotline at this point. I think, again, that opens us up to folks from around the country and around the world accessing us unless we have more regulations about that. And I think, again, the purpose of the call to the audience is for people in our community to come here and to have themselves be heard in person. All those in favor? No, we're just voting on the amendment only, on including a hotline option to this policy. All those in favor of this amendment say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay.
No.
No. So the amendment passes 3-2. So now we go back to the policy as revised, including the 2 strikeouts and the addition of a hotline. All those in favor of that policy revision for first read, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Item passes 4-1. Okay. That concludes that part of the meeting, and our last item is an information item. I'm going to be actually leaving for this last part of the meeting due to my timeline this evening. No offense to you, Mr. Fernandez, and I'll turn over the meeting to Mr. Romero to lead us for the last piece of the meeting.
Yes, governing board members, I'd like to welcome our Chief Human Capital Officer, Mr. John Fernandez, to the podium tonight, who's been in the role now for coming up on a year, and has done a great job of getting out to, at this point, just about every school in the district, interfacing with principals, with hiring decision makers, office managers, frontline personnel, and really getting into conversations about where the growth areas and where the transformative opportunities are for human resources. So as one of the district's most vital areas of operation, I wanted to give some time here for Mr. Fernandez this evening to talk about some of the areas of focus and the goals that he has set for the HR department this year. Mr. Fernandez.
All right, good evening, members of the board, and thank you for making time tonight to get updates from our HR department. Just as a matter of introduction, again, you know who I am. I just wanted to introduce Ms. Monica Sanchez here, who accompanied me here tonight. She is our Director of Recruitment for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, which makes her responsible for all the recruitment efforts, which some of which we will talk about tonight. There's a lot going on in HR. We'll hit the highlights. I mean, because you could go into one of these areas all night if we wanted to, I'm sure. But we wanted to do the highlights. Happy to take questions at the end if we can provide the answers tonight. Great. If not, we definitely will come back and follow up to make sure you have the information that you need based on your area of interest. Before I get started, I just wanted to remind not the board, but just our general audience that the mission of the human resources is not simply to push paper and do the processing that we do in high volume every single day, but really to support the district's overall vision and mission to educate and provide services to students. To do this, we employ innovative, data-driven strategies to attract, develop, and most importantly, try to retain our dedicated leaders, educators, and staff across our district. I just want to touch upon 4 general areas of focus. We'll be talking about recruitment and what we're doing at this point, given the challenges and shortages in education staffing across the nation. What we're doing to really figure out how to triage those areas that are hard to fill. I want to provide a little bit of good news about our efforts around international teachers. The second area will be hiring, what we're doing to try to improve the process for getting our applicants through the application process into the school sites as soon as possible. Third area would be retention. This is something new, that an important area that we need to talk about, something that HR alone is not solely responsible for trying to address, but definitely we have a key role in monitoring and trying to support our sites on the retention side, so that we're not always trying to hire, but we can keep our positions filled by keeping our good employees with us here in the district. And then the last area will be just a quick update on what we're doing around the around the audits that have been completed around HR. The last time Human Resources gave a report like this to the board was probably the end of 2022, before I came on board, to give an update about to share the audit findings and recommendations. And then since I've been on board, looking at ways that we can get ourselves organized in order to make those improvements happen. And I want to give you an update in that area. Recruitment, I want to, on the recruitment side, it's just been very important that we always kind of take a look at the data and make sure we're using data to drive the priorities and the activities of our HR staff, and to make sure that the superintendent and our leadership team are always informed about where we are, especially in this environment where every critical position needs to be filled. It looks like a puzzle up there because that's just a snippet of the reports that we do, but every 2 weeks we provide a vacancy update to our leadership team to make sure they're aware, and then they can communicate and support the efforts to hire and fill these positions. And then based on these numbers, we take a triage approach, looking at those using a stoplight approach. Red light, yellow light, green light. If you're in green, good for you. That means your vacancy rates are low. Whatever you're doing, working with our staff to keep that good result going, we want you to keep doing what you're doing. If you're in yellow, it means that we're seeing some worry, some maybe you lost an employee and you're working to fill it and it's taking some time. We're going to work with you at the staff level to just check in with you, make sure that there aren't any roadblocks, that we're expediting hiring as soon as possible. So my associates will visit, or they will go out and call the principals and the office managers to make sure everything's going okay. It's when you get to the red light area is where we kind of look at you as being in intensive care. We meet with you weekly, these departments. We meet with you weekly to make sure that communication is flowing, that we're working hand in hand to be creative about strategies to fill these positions, that we are expediting the process for hiring, interviewing, bringing these applicants in. And so with that said, it means that not every school is going to get the same level of attention every week, but the ones that need attention, we're highlighting and making sure that we reach out and support the schools. I use the very same report in my school visits. Like Dr. Trujillo said, in addition to kind of monitoring what's going on from Central, it's just important to get out on the front lines and make sure that what we're seeing at Central is what you're seeing as a principal out at your site. So we'll look at the data. We'll make sure that it's correct, that there isn't any communication. We'll talk about some of the challenges, and then we just basically say, look, call me if there's an urgent issue that you feel like something's not going smoothly, and we'll work to smooth it out. And so that's been helpful to me for sure, to understand the different schools, the different needs, the different challenges that our schools face, some of them being remote, some of them larger, smaller environments. It really gives me a sense of the different types of environments that we are trying to support through our efforts. Sorry about that. The other issue, I would say that overall right now, just as a report, we are doing relatively well at this overall. I mean, this is not singling out teacher, staff, and everything, but overall, if we look at our school sites, we're at about a 5 to 6% vacancy rate, which to us is something we have to keep trying to keep low. But we also know that every vacancy is important. If it's someone in the classroom and you're missing somebody, whether it's 1%, 10%, that's still something we gotta move urgently to address. The areas where we meet weekly, those in the red category, are going to be those you might be familiar with, working in transportation, food services, eg ed. Those are the areas where either you have high turnover, you have a difficulty filling those positions due to compensation or competition with other districts, or just a shortage of specialized employees, such as what we're seeing nationwide in Ex-Ed. I want to give you an example and hopefully, definitely some good news. So on the transportation side, we've been doing the weekly meetings probably about a year now because of the challenges in filling these bus driver positions. I want to thank the board. I mean, the compensation increases that you passed to raise the rates, the wages for our bus drivers has been paying off. And also with the weekly meetings between our staff and transportation, there's just been a good, smooth communication and flow of effort to move from the application stage to the training stage, and then finally bring them on as full-time bus drivers. What you're seeing up there, might be maybe a few days dated, but the goal that we've been stating has been to get 200 bus drivers, in place to support the routes that we have. And for the first time in a while, we are close. And that means that we've got 172 current bus drivers, but we have, I think the number's gone up from 35 at this point to more than 35 in training. So if we get those bus drivers training successfully through their training phase and into our full-time bus driver positions, there is a chance that we will hit that 200 number within the next couple of months. So we're really looking forward to that. That's good news for the district, and allows us, the luxury of being able to support all the routes, to be able to cover absences and so forth. So we plan to continue this work with transportation because we feel like it's paying off, and it really helps our two departments work closely together. And I hope we'll reach the success and come back to report this to you shortly. Another area, I think with the good work being done in transportation, we were asked to do the same thing with food services. Food services is a somewhat different animal because it's really this turnover issue. You get employees hired, but then they turn over because it's a competitive market, and when they see other opportunities, there may be a desire to leave and look and pursue those other opportunities. So you might always be in this position of trying to hire, and what we're doing right now is doing the same thing, weekly meetings with our food services department, looking at their harder to fill positions and trying to be creative about where we source those applicants. And then really, I think at this point, we got to keep an eye on what that turnover might look like over the course of our work together. One of the things I think we're happy about is that we also wanted to take the opportunity to be a little bit more innovative and creative about recruiting. So through the partnership with between HR and food services, we were able, I don't know if you've seen this, but we were able to put out food services ad, a video that's on our website, and we'd be able to push that out there. And I wanted to see if we had time to, it's a short video, so we hope you don't mind if we just kind of play it for you today.
Tucson Unified School District Food Services Department, where fresh and healthy meals are our top priority. The Tucson Unified Food Services Department takes immense pride in sourcing fresh produce from local farms in Tucson, ensuring our community enjoys the very best. We are delighted to share that we acquire 600 pounds of locally grown lettuce each week, delivering this nutritious bounty to schools across the area, fostering a healthy and sustainable food culture. Our dedicated team of professionals is passionate about serving nutritious, delicious meals to your students. And we're hiring. Join us in making a difference in children's lives through healthy food. Tucson Unified School District Food Services, where fresh, wholesome meals meet a bright future. Apply now and be a part of our mission.
So I hope you appreciated it. It was a video that came together really quickly. We really do need to think about doing this more. I would be remiss if I didn't also thank our communications department. So food service, HR, communications, I think showing people what it's like to work at TUSD, branding our TUSD as a place to where they might want to try their luck in starting a career or continuing a career. We want to do more of that, so we just wanted to give you a sample of what came out of some of that early, just over the past month or so, working together to come up with ideas for recruitment. We haven't seen as much progress in food services yet because we just started that earlier this, like I say, over the last couple of months. Based on the improvements we were seeing in transportation, we have seen an increase in applicants, and we do have a number of applicants lined up to interview. And so what we're doing at this point is trying to assist food services with, getting those interviews moving through so we can move into the hiring process, into getting these applicants on board. Our next section is our international teachers. So. One of my first visits, the first teacher I was introduced to was an international teacher, and her first concern was, I've been here 5 years, I want to stay, how do I do this? And I learned more about, the international teachers just in those early visits. Our principals really appreciate having them because of the nature of having to fill all the vacancies that we have. They come in, in areas such as math, science, they cover, they teach ex-ed classes. And, there was a real desire for the principals to continue to do this as part of our overall strategy for filling positions. I went back to the office, and we don't, necessarily do the same thing every year. Sometimes there's more of a push, sometimes there's less. It all depends on the circumstances. But this year, we made a concerted push to really work with our sponsoring agency to make sure we took a look and recruited international applicants in areas that where they were needed. And we are proud to report that we have 56 new international teachers, mostly from the Philippines and from India, who have joined us over the past couple of months. So of those 56 new international teachers, 23 of them are ex-ed teachers. And as you know, ex-ed is a high area of need. And then, of course, 9 are science or math teachers. You'll see just on that chart, they are actually spread out throughout the regions and at the various levels. And so, one of the challenges, of course, is the process for bringing international teachers here is not always predictable, and so there's some of the individuals ran into the situation where they didn't come right at the beginning of the school year, but trickled in to August and September. So we're going to work on to see what we can do to get them here in time for the start of the school year. So they can go through all the preparation that our new teachers go through. But in lieu of that, we decided we did want to have an opportunity to bring them all together now that all 56 have arrived. We did schedule an international teacher induction. These are for our new international teachers. We're going to hold that on November 4th in the morning. And what we wanted to do is a little different from our normal induction, meaning it's not just about getting introduced to the teaching and learning in Tucson Unified. It's also about learning general expectations as an employee of the department, and then also tips and the resources for transitioning into an entirely new community. So we have marked off our morning. We want to share some of those basic resources and provide some of that guidance, but also want to hear back from them as to any needs and any issues that arise. But we're very happy to have them here because, as I said, they're covering some of the classes where we really have a difficulty finding enough applicants. So let me go on to our next slide. Maximizing capacity. I'll go quickly. This was really just a thank you for passing the budget, for the superintendent allowing us to have two additional positions in our staffing and our employment unit, really to kind of move the high volume of processing through. And that's going to be key to our next priority, which is a priority. I'm trying to operate 2 different presentations, but reducing time to hire. This is one of the goals that we have in our TUSD strategic plan. So this is a work in progress. And the story goes that when somebody is in the hiring process and nobody knows what's happening, they point to HR and say, well, it's at HR, but nobody has more detail about where they are in the process. And that's frustrating for sites and it's frustrating for applicants. So we really have been working internally in our team to break down the process and to really time each of these processes based on our past, our applications, past job openings and hiring activities. And from the site perspective, it takes about 2 weeks in general, and it looks like from anywhere from 8 to 15 days to go from making a recommendation to getting an offer accepted. I use the target average as a standard. That's a SHRM standard. I'm not sure that's appropriate for the large district, but it is a goal to shoot for. So a couple of weeks for the sites doesn't seem to ring alarm bells, for me. From the applicant perspective, we're looking at 30 to 40 days. So these are straight days, not working days. So about a month, a little bit over a month from submitting your application, getting interviewed, screened, go through the process of getting selected and accepting your offer. So when we looked at that aspect, it didn't seem to, set off alarm bells. We'd like to get it shorter, but 30 to 40 days, we can cut into it. That's not the story I was hearing, out on the street, out on our front lines. So that's really where Dr. Trujillo said, look, you got to look at this part, which is after you make a selection and you say we want to hire you, you've accepted the offer. There's a process between getting the applicant their checklist to go through their compliance and they get their transcripts, et cetera, all the way to showing up at the school site itself. So there are things that have to happen in that onboarding. We call it the onboarding process. There are things that have to happen that the applicant is responsible for, and we need to take a close look at that. Make sure that it's necessary. These are essential things that need to be done, and that we're not putting too many things into this process that are unnecessary. Looking at ways to support the applicants in getting this done in a timely manner. Communicating with them to express the urgency of getting these things completed, and then moving towards their orientation so they can show up at the school site. There are also other things that we are discussing whether we can move them to the schools versus keep them at HR. So we typically try to handle everything in HR. We wrap our arms around the onboarding and say, you can't go to the school until you do this. I think we're now discussing, are there things that the schools can do as long as we give them their employee, the employee can show up, take some time in those early days to complete the necessary documents and things that need to be completed so that we can get those bodies out to the schools. So we haven't completed this process, but that's where we're headed because we want to get this time frame down. I'm hoping that we can look at a 30-day time frame as a target, as a goal to get through the entire process. But that's going to be a big challenge based on where we are today. But that's our effort, and we're using data to drive this process improvement. We're doing the same for principals. I'm not ready to share the final kind of version because we're still kind of exploring ways that this could work. But having been through the administrator hiring process this last year and discussing it with the superintendent, it's taking an average of 100 days from the time we post a job to getting them to the board for approval to hire principals. And in this environment, we just can't afford to do that. We've got to get good applicants. Once we know we have a good applicant, we've got to get them on board, get them to the board for approval. 100 days is too long. We're competing with our nearby districts, and we're also competing across the state and across the region, even nationally, right? We have two out-of-district principals this year, and we want to get them in if they're willing to be here and they're qualified and some people we want. But that 100-day timeline has to be adjusted. So we're proposing to reduce this time frame. I hope we can do it by about a third. About 30 days to post a job and a 30 to 40 day target to process them, meaning going through interviews at the site council, going through interviews with the superintendent, and then getting them scheduled for board action. If we can do that, I think we'll have a better opportunity to get the good candidates in before other offers come from other districts. So that's just something to look forward to. The administrator hiring process begins for us in December when we identify vacancies and start posting the pool for applications in January. And then as for those of you who've been on the board, that comes really quickly. Well, not quickly, but it comes shortly after that. And you'll see those principal positions coming to your eyes for review, in the spring. So hopefully we'll have a better process in place. Then finally, I want to talk about retention, monitoring the attrition rate. This is another goal that is in our strategic plan for TUSD. And when I came in, someone said, "Hey, this is the HR role," And I want to be very clear because I think it's very important that we work on retaining our employees for sure, but it is a department-wide goal, and we have to work across our sites to make sure we are welcoming, inclusive of our employees' needs and concerns, and that we do our best to support them as they support our kids. It doesn't mean moving away from accountability, but we're also at a point where we need to make it worthwhile for our teachers, our staff to remain with us, given some of these more challenging times. So at the very least, we can start, we're looking at making sure we do a regular report and also dive down deeper into sites, schools and departments to see where the attrition issues are of a concern. Overall, if you look back from 2017, 2018 to last school year, I do have an update on that. We've been around 15 to 17%. We've been slightly below the national average. This is from Bureau of Labor Statistics. The national average has been around 18 to 22%. It's high, we're high, but we're still below the national average at this point. The good news is for 22-23, we ran the numbers. We're at about 13%. So that dipped. I'm not sure exactly why. I hope it's because all of the compensation review and retention stipends and all the work we've been doing to try to support our employees. We'll look more closely at that number. But again, beyond this year, we have to continue to keep an eye on it. So we're not just looking at it overall. Like I said, we want to focus in on regions, sites, departments where attrition might be an issue, so we can provide support to administrators to see what we can do to build a positive climate and culture for all of our employees in times where they might be considering retiring or moving on. Finally, and I'll just say really quickly, we will have to come back to you on the audit work. But as you might recall, for those of you on the board, we had about 32 recommendations from the EXMI was an outside firm brought in to do an audit. Some of these things align with many of the things I've talked about, improving the process for hiring and so forth. But we had about over 30 findings and recommendations. And as part of trying to tackle this, I did two things. One is we broke it into phases. We said, look, we can't eat the elephant all at once. Let's do it a piece at a time. And so we did that by prioritizing certain activities as phase one. And we have 4 phases that'll probably take us to the end of the next calendar year to fully implement all of these findings and recommendations. Part of why it's going to take that long is because we actually have involved all of our HR employees in the process of audit improvement, which means we want to understand what these findings were made. We want to come and brainstorm together, those of us in leadership, those of who are in the front line processing and working with employees, to come up with the best recommendations for addressing these findings. And once we come up with them, let's implement them, let's put it in writing, let's sustain them. So even though it's taking a little time to make sure everybody's bought in and everybody's playing a role, it is going to, I believe it will turn out into sustainable improvements that we can manage and report back to you that these areas have been addressed and that you won't see them, in the future. So you have the presentation. We had a project scope. We had, sorry, this is the wrong button. We talked about the phased approach, and then finally, looking at how we kind of break down each of the findings so we can tackle them as part of our audit improvement work. So with that, I hope we've given you a flavor of what the types of work and the areas of focus for HR, and I'm happy to take any questions or respond to any comments.
Board members, do we have any questions? Ms. Lina Rose?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fernandez, for the presentation. Just a quick question about the attrition rate. Just looking at these numbers, across the board, they look, as compared to the national is pretty good.
Yeah.
But when would we find out about the 22-23 school year?
So I realized when I was pulling that data that wasn't information I had when I was submitting the information this to the board. The update is basically 22-23. The attrition rate was 13.4%. So that is low, and we have to look into that to determine what happened during the course of the year. But really, this measures the attrition rate is essentially the number of people who've left the department, compared to the overall head count at that time. And again, so we'll take a look and report back, and we've hit 15% in earlier years. 13% is lower than that, so we want to make sure we have a story for why that might have occurred. And you're right. Compared to even regionally, we've seen other government jurisdictions around here looking at 20+% attrition, which makes us feel good. But every vacancy we have in every classroom still, is a challenge. So we're going to continue to make efforts to try to do better than the average.
Okay.
But we'll get back. I have to provide that as well to the superintendent, because we pulled this number and it was a good number, but we want to just verify what's going on. And like I said, I'm hopeful that some of this, which we know with the retention stipends and so forth, plays some role in keeping people extended, because we hear that all the time. We are going to stay. We don't want to leave because we know there's a retention stipend at the end. Won't be there forever, so we have to watch out for those trends.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board members? Ms. Shaw?
Oh, thank you. I just want to thank you, Mr. Fernandez, for the presentation and your work. I'm happy to see that we're filling so many of those hard-to-fill vacancies. It's good news.
All right, thank you. Hope we can continue to report improvements. Thank you.
And I have a couple questions. You're talking about reducing time, like to hire principals. I know you said this is still a work in progress. Currently process about 100 days. You're looking to get it down to 30, 35 days. Do you have like a time frame you're looking to be able to be successful in this?
So first of all, I want to clarify, 60 to 65 days is more the target. So there was a 30-day posting requirement. So when we post an administrator job, beyond that. So right now we've been again pulling data and trying to make sure we have good data to work from. So right now we're in the process of ironing out what the onboarding data looks like, and we're finding some challenges in making sure we've got the right time frames. But we'll get there in the next week or so. With that data, what we plan to do is kind of sit down as a team at HR and with partners who are our partners in other departments or other the hiring sites, to figure out with the onboarding piece, what are the major changes that are needed. I'm hoping we can see some of that adjustment in the spring as we head into the busy part of our hiring season. But again, it just kind of depends on what it is that we are going to be modifying as part of the onboarding process.
And I do appreciate being aggressive going into this. I know you have quite a big rock to move as far as this goes. As far as so far that you've been doing this, are you getting any pushback from HR? Are you getting a lot of buy-in? What's the climate and culture going on right now?
Oh, I have to say that it's very positive, and that's partly because, first of all, coming in, I think I was a beneficiary of some, changes and just a mix of staff that gives me the benefit of having longer serving, longer tenured staff on board who have been here and know all the ins and outs of what's been done and what's been tried and failed. So there's that. Plus we have a whole, fresh bunch of other employees who've come in with new ideas and a real desire to make progress. So what we've been really doing is trying to build that culture within our department. Before we go outside and talk about culture and climate, we wanted to focus in on HR ourselves, make sure we're practicing what we preach. So we meet monthly. We do a lot of team building work with our department. We have the staff lead some of these efforts. So it's not just me talking to staff. We want our staff to be more involved in this, for instance, in this audit work. I mean, if I mention that, people might go to sleep, but they actually show up for the audit work, and they have ideas and they want to show improvements. My job is to make it happen, right? If you come up with ideas and it doesn't go anywhere, then you're not going to pay attention. So steadily and over time, what we've been doing over the last several months is really trying to build that culture of, I want your ideas. I want you to be part of the solution. I'm here to listen to you, but then our job is to make it happen. And I think that's the approach that's turned. When I first started, I'd like to say, I thought it was we had the largest bunch of introverts I've ever worked with, because not everyone feels comfortable speaking up and participating. And I said, we really have to work as a team. And so in our last monthly meeting, I was really excited because you could see a lot of that work together, real good dynamics between the staff that I didn't see early on. And that's not to knock at predecessors, just to say sometimes you have to pay a lot of attention to those pieces so that people feel like they're a part of the work and want to commit themselves to improvements. We do have to hold people accountable when it's not happening, and that does happen. But for the most part, I think the team's hungry for progress. They've made progress. They want to see it happen and want to see it continue. And so my job is to make it happen for them.
Thank you. Any final questions? All right, Mr. Fernandez, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
All right, and item 10.1, future meeting times and agenda items.
Yes, Governing Board Clerk Romero, members of the Governing Board, November 14th, highlighted item, school letter grades. I think you are going to be pleased with some of the amazing improvements that we will be presenting publicly on November 14th. Arizona Department of Education and State Board of Education are going to make school letter grades public information as of November 1st. As always, I will give you a full report prior to the public meeting. So you know what we'll be presenting, but we're very, very excited. So all of you watching, tune in November 14th.
All right, unless there's anything else, we can adjourn our meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.